This hearing is called to order. Member and guests will please take their seats. This is the Committee on Rules. Today is Tuesday, June 4th, 2024. Madam Clerk, please call the roll to take attendance. Members that are in attendance will please indicate that you are present when your name is called.
Councilmember Squilla. Councilmember Gilmore Richardson.
Present.
Councilmember Jones.
Present.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Present.
Councilmember Thomas. Councilmember Gauthier. Chair Bass.
Present. Thank you. A quorum of the committee is present, and the hearing is now called to order. And this is the public hearing of the Committee on Rules regarding bills number 240058, 240157, 240242, 240332, 240368, 240385, 240415, 240421, 240426, 240427, 240432, and 240466. And Madam Clerk, please read the title of these bills.
Bill number 240058, amending section 14-702 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Floor Area, Height, and Dwelling Unit Density Bonuses to add requirements related to the use of payments in lieu of building affordable housing to receive floor area, building height, and dwelling unit density bonuses, and amending section 14-533 entitled Mixed Income Neighborhoods Overlay District to add requirements related to the use of payments in lieu of building affordable housing to satisfy certain minimum affordable housing building requirements under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 240157, amending Title 14 Zoning and Planning and Title 18 Commerce of the Philadelphia Code to clarify responsibilities of the Department of Aviation and eliminated provisions related to passenger chargers, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 240242, amending Section 14-500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by amending Section 14-524 entitled FDO 4th District Overlay District to establish use regulations on medical facilities, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 240332, approving the Sixth Amendment of the redevelopment proposal for the American Street Industrial Corridor Urban Renewal Area, being the area generally bounded by Lehigh Avenue, Burke Street, and Montgomery Avenue on the north, by 2nd Street and Phillip Street on the east, by Girard Avenue, Oxford Street, and Jefferson Street on the south, and by Germantown Avenue, 6th Street and 3rd Street on the west, including the Sixth Amendment to the Urban Renewal Plan, which provides for changes that would make it consistent with the North Philadelphia Redevelopment Area Plan and generally consistent with the most recent comprehensive plan approved by the City Planning Commission of the City of Philadelphia. Bill number 240368, continuing a neighborhood improvement district known as the East Passyunk Avenue Business Improvement District in an area that generally includes both sides of East Passyunk Avenue from the south side of Federal Street to the east side of South Broad Street, certain blocks of streets that intersect the portion of East Passyunk Avenue, both sides of South Broad Street from the north side of McKean Street to the north side of Snyder Avenue, and the west side of Broad Street from the south side of Mifflin Street to the north side of McKean Street, designated the East Passyunk Avenue Business Improvement District Incorporated, which has organized itself as a Pennsylvania nonprofit corporation as a Neighborhood Improvement District Management Association for the district, approving a plan for the district, including a list of proposed improvements and their estimated costs, and providing for assessment fees to be levied on property owners within a district, authorizing the Director of Commerce on behalf of the city to execute an agreement with the East Passyunk Avenue Business Improvement District Incorporated related to the district, and authorizing the East Passyunk Avenue Business Improvement District Incorporated to assess property owners within the district a special property assessment fee to be used in accordance with the approved plan, all in accordance with the provision of the Community and Economic Improvement Act and under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 240385, to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Snyder Avenue, 6th Street, Cantrell Street, and 7th Street. Bill number 240415, to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bound by Island Avenue, the Delaware Expressway, and Bartram Avenue. Bill number 240421, to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bound by Valley Avenue, Domino Lane, Ridge Avenue, Paoli Avenue, Peachin Street Extended, Ridge Avenue, Hermit Street, and Henry Avenue, and to amend Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code by adding Section 14-541, Ridge Avenue Neighborhoods Overlay, and making other related changes, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 240426, to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Roosevelt Boulevard, Adams Avenue, Ramona Street, Wyoming Avenue, and Whitaker Avenue. Bill number 240427, amending Section 14-305 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Nonconformities by providing further provisions on changes of nonconforming uses, all under certain terms and conditions. Bill number 240432, to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Kensington Avenue, Tioga Street, Jasper Street, and Allegheny Avenue. And Bill number 240466, amending Section 14-30314 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Public Hearings of the Zoning Board of Adjustment to change the number of board members required for a quorum or for action taken at a Zoning Board of Adjustment hearing, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, and as per the sponsor's request, today we will be holding Bill number 240432. Madam Clerk, please call the first panel we have to testify this morning on Bill number 240058.
Paula Brumbelow Burns, Director of Legislation, Philadelphia City Planning Commission.
And as she's approaching, I know that the bill's sponsor, Councilwoman Gauthier, would like to make remarks. Councilwoman Gauthier?
Thank you for the opportunity to comment, Madam Chair. I know that we have a packed agenda for this morning, so I'll be brief. This bill is part of a set that aims to correct what's essentially a lie that currently exists in our code. Many of our my district colleagues might have experienced the situation where there's new development going up that's taller than what the zoning code currently allows by right because developers have paid into the mixed income housing density bonus. What we know to be true is that not only does this, quote, payment in lieu mean that no affordable housing will be secured on site, but we also know that these payments have never led to a proportionate increase in the Housing Trust Fund, and that moreover, none of this money stays within the geographic vicinity of where the development is taking place. This leads to a situation that comes up time and time again, where developers are doing what the city asks of them, but community members are still upset and discouraged because they are getting overscale development in their neighborhood with none of the affordable housing benefits that were promised to them. We cannot turn a blind eye to this any longer. I've already proposed a charter change that would mandate this funding to the Housing Trust Fund that was favorably referred out of committee last month. The next step is Bill number 240058 in front of this committee today, which calls on the city to spend the money on affordable housing efforts within the council district where the development is happening. This morning, we will circulate an amendment changing the language in the bill from a 2-mile radius around the development to the same council district as the development to give maximum flexibility to council members and the administration in investing these funds. These changes will help make good on the original intent of the density bonus, which is for there to be a compensatory benefit that offsets the additional density allowed in the zoning code. I'll note also that the language is quite flexible, allowing for best efforts and multiple years for planning and development to spend the funds, and as just referenced, it allows for these funds to be spent within the entire council district where the project will be built. For this reason, I think this is a reasonable and common sense bill and should be referred favorably today. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Council Lady Gauthier. And now to the witness, Paula Brumbelow Burns. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, members of the Rules Committee. I am Paula Brumbelow Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill number 240058, introduced into City Council on February 1st, 2024, by Council members Gautier, Landau, O'Rourke, Brooks, and Squilla. Bill number 240058 amends Section 14-702 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Floor, Area, Height, and Dwelling Unit Density Bonuses to add requirements related to the use of payments in lieu of building affordable housing to receive floor area, building height, and dwelling unit density bonuses, and amending Section 14-533 entitled MIN Mixed Income Neighborhoods Overlay District to add requirements related to the use of payments in lieu of building affordable housing to satisfy certain minimum affordable housing building requirements. This bill amends the Mixed Income Housing Bonus and the MIN Mixed Income Neighborhoods Overlay District by adding the requirement that the city use best efforts to use in lieu fees within 5 years of the owner tending payment to the city for a project or projects within 2 miles of the development. If pursued in earnest, this new requirement would impose an administrative burden. Each housing trust fund, known as HTF, expenditure would need to be individually designated as drawing from the fees associated with a given development, and funds remaining from each development's account would need to be tracked. In addition, HTF's expenditures are spent in response to applications by residents and developers. The need for housing programs is universal throughout the city, but development is generally concentrated in select areas of the city. As a result, we would need to target our programs that serve those in the areas in question. Further, HTF is just one source of funding that is often used interchangeably with other local, state, and federal funds, which are not constrained by this code section, creating a somewhat piecemeal approach to serving the city's housing needs. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill number 240058 at its public meeting on March 21st, 2024, and they recommended the bill not be approved. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
And thank you for your testimony. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gauthier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your testimony. As noted, we are changing the geographic boundary to council district. So with that change and with what was already in the bill, best efforts, the Planning Commission would have 5 years. The Planning Commission has the entire council district to work in with collaboration with the council member. I failed to see how this would be an administratively burdensome program. The city, as city government, we have to allocate money to different geographic areas all the time. And I just want to bring us back to the original intent of the payment in lieu program. When, high density market rate development is going up in community X, we are telling neighbors that that is okay because they're going to get a corresponding investment in affordable housing, which was the original intent of the program as created by former council member Maria Quinones-Sanchez. These changes, one, to mandate that that payment in lieu money actually finds its way to the Housing Trust Fund, and to require that there is some geographic coordination to where that money is spent so that it actually does provide an offset, are common sense changes. And I fail to see how the administration would not be able to make a corresponding investment in such a large geographic area within a 5-year period. I think that we are more sophisticated than that. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Chair recognizes Council Member Jones, and also want to recognize the presence of Council Member Mark Squilla.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Question, and it came to our attention that how much money have we received over the last couple of years for the Housing Trust Fund from this?
Point of information. These payments have never exceeded, with the exception of 1 year that was an anomaly, more than $10 million a year. So it's a relatively small amount of money that equals about 1.9% of the total money that the city is spending on housing assistance.
So it's approximately 10 million a year?
Most times less.
Okay. My question actually is, why does it go to the general fund and not to the Housing Trust Fund?
That is a very good question that I
I
don't
usually ask good questions. Don't be surprised.
I don't actually know that answer. I believe the bill was originally set up to go to the Housing Trust Fund. I do not know what happened then that goes to the general fund. That I do not know.
Would you provide that answer to the chair to
Yes.
distribute to the committee? Because that's the whole intention of creating a housing trust fund, is to put these kinds of dollars in it, and I don't understand why it would go to the general fund.
We will get that answer by this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to add, any other questions from members of the committee, comments? I just wanted to add that, based on what we've been doing and the way we've been operating in terms of not providing funding directly into the Housing Trust Fund, it's created a fiasco. It's just a disaster of, epic proportions, because when we look at the number of people who applied for housing choice vouchers, I think the number was somewhere around 37,000, and at $10 million going into the Housing Trust Fund a year, and the price and the rate of real estate development right now, we are never going to be able to see our way anywhere close to being able to house the folks that need to be housed. I firmly believe that it's our responsibility as the city of Philadelphia to make sure that there's housing for those of lesser means, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that people have, a decent quality housing. So I applaud the bill's sponsor. I'm glad to hear that we're going to be making sure that this reaches neighborhoods that otherwise might not have been reached. So we're going to expand the boundaries of where these funds will go to, where they're coming from and where they're going to. There'll be a larger catchment area, if you will, so that the funds can get out into the neighborhoods needed. So that being said, if there's no other comments from members of the committee, thank you, Ms. Bumbleau Burns.
You're welcome.
Madam Clerk, can we have you call the next members of the next panelists to testify?
Pamela Andrews, West Powelton Saunders Park RCO, Dwayne Drummond, Mantua Civic Association, and Garrett O'Dwyer from the Philadelphia Association of Community Development Corporations.
And while they're coming forward, I do want to recognize the presence of Councilwoman Ketsi Lozada from the 7th District and Councilman Jeffrey Young from the 5th District. Good morning.
Good morning.
When you're
Good
ready,
morning.
please state your name for the record and proceed.
My name is Pamela Andrews. I am the chair of West Powelton Saunders Park RCO. Good morning. I am here today to testify in support of Bill 240058. For us, we feel the most important thing that you need to know about this bill is that West Powelton, we deal daily with the impact of the density bonus in our community. Developers come in, their main focus in our community is to build multifamily housing. It has turned our community primarily into a bedroom community for the universities. We have to deal with oversized development, density, noise, trash, all of it. And there is no guarantees that none of the monies that are generated from the density bonuses come back into our community. We have seen absolutely none, and we need to see that changed. In our community of West Powelton, I will say to you, over the past year as zoning chair of our RCO, I have seen numerous large-scale buildings go up, all right, and no money has come back in the community. The monies that could be generated, the millions that have come from that development, we could basically, if it came back into our community, we could put together our own affordable housing programs. This needs to change. I'm constantly bombarded every day with phone calls, and this is a simple thing, but seniors who have lived in the neighborhood for 30, 40, 50 years, and because how this has impacted the neighborhood. They're calling every day saying, Pam, I've been here for 50 years, and I've never seen rodents running up and down the street, because with all of this density, the quality of life in our particular neighborhood is changing. We are happy about this bill. We applaud Councilwoman Gautier for sponsoring this bill, and we want to see the density monies come back into our neighborhood and be utilized positively to create affordable housing. Thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Thank you for your testimony. Dwayne Drummond?
Good morning, Madam Chair and the Rules
morning.
Committee. I'd like to thank you all for hosting and having this very, very important topic. My name is Dwayne Drummond. I am the president of the Mantua Civic Association, and the Mantua Civic Association support this bill 240058. And I have to stand on the Mantua motto is plan or be planned for. This is an excellent, excellent strategy when it comes down to displacement. And displacement, we call in Mantua the G spot. It's a gentrification spot where a lot of development is taking place, and the current residents is not benefiting from the development. And with this bill right here, for it to go to pass through Rules Committee and go up to City Council, I think this will be a win, just not for Mantua, but for the city of Philadelphia also. And it should not be that development take place and money get put in a trust, and instead of North Philly or West Philly getting that money, it get placed down in Center City, for example. So I ain't gonna be long-winded. I thank you for your time, and I hope you digest what everybody is saying about this bill.
Yes.
And thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. And Garrett O'Dwyer?
Good morning, Chairperson Bass, and Vice Chair Squilla, if he's still here, and members of City Council's Committee on Rules. My name is Garrett O'Dwyer, and I'm the Associate Policy Director for the Philadelphia Association of Community Development Corporations, or PACDC. We represent 60 Philadelphia CDC members and another 100 associate members engaged in community development, community revitalization, and community stabilization. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before the Rules Committee in favor of Bill number 240058 that adds further requirements for payments in lieu in exchange for obtaining density bonuses for projects providing mixed-income housing. If the city's goal is to create diverse, affordable neighborhoods of choice across Philadelphia, it is important that affordable housing be created where larger-scale market-rate projects are taking place. What we've seen is that payments in lieu in exchange for density bonuses are not necessarily utilized to expand affordable housing opportunities in the neighborhoods where the new developments are taking place. Currently, the payments to the Housing Trust Fund can be used by the Housing Trust Fund anywhere in the city. While there is value in having such flexibility, in this case, a more targeted approach for use of these funds is warranted, since new market rate development may lead to increases in housing costs in a neighborhood. In communities where we've seen increases in property values and resident displacement, an uptick in market rate development has been the lead indicator. Therefore, if we are to meaningfully combat displacement and build mixed-income communities, it is necessary for there to be focused investments in exactly these communities before opportunities for affordability are foreclosed upon for good. PACDC supports Bill number 240058 as amended, requiring payment in lieu funds to be spent within the council district of the project receiving the density bonus. But we are concerned that the council district may be too large a geography to ensure expanded affordable housing opportunities in the neighborhood where the project is being developed. We all know that neighborhoods can be quite compact in Philadelphia, often smaller than 10 blocks, or about a mile. The original 2-mile radius is actually 4 miles from end to end, which can span multiple neighborhoods. Council district could be even larger. We would recommend a smaller distance, a more targeted geography for the greatest effect. While not addressed in this bill, we would also highlight the need to periodically evaluate whether payments in lieu are set at an appropriate rate to maximize affordable housing development on site rather than payments to the Housing Trust Fund, because that is the surest way to create new affordable units within the neighborhood experiencing significant market rate development. Lastly, we are concerned that these proceeds are directed towards the Housing Trust Fund sub-fund, while the original Housing Trust Fund has restrictions to ensure that at least 50% of funds are spent on our poorest neighbors making less than 30% AMI. The sub-fund does not similarly prioritize those most in need. Again, we'd like to thank Councilman Gauthier for her leadership, and we want to add our strong support for Bill number 240058 as amended, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions from members? Councilwoman Gauthier?
Quick comments. One, I wanted to thank everybody for testifying. Garrett, I just wanted to acknowledge your testimony. The change to council district was something that would make the bill work for all of the district council members, so it was an important change. But I do note, your comment, and I also am very committed to working with you to see how we can strengthen on-site affordable units and to tackle the AMI issue as we move forward. And then I also wanted to thank, I call her Ms. Pam, Ms. Pam and Dwayne for coming to testify today. They are are in the thick of all of this development, market rate development, where we're not seeing enough of an offset in affordable units. And I just wanted to give one quick example, because with the pace of development that's happening in and around West Powelton, in and around Mantua, you know, at this budget season, I've been advocating heavily for $14 million to support the rebuilding of 70 low-income units on the former University City Townhome site. We would have had that money already. If we had this change several years ago, and I will note, when we asked for it, we would have had that money already. And we wouldn't be coming hat in hand to the administration to ask for these units that we already settled on in federal court. So this is a very, very important piece of legislation to make sure that communities get what they deserve, and that the most desirable neighborhoods in our city are open to working class people. Thank you so much for being here today.
Seeing that there's no other questions from the committee, Madam Clerk, please call forward the next bill and testifier. Is there someone else here to testify on bill number 240058?
I have Pastor Jay Broadnax and Elizabeth Waring.
Good morning, Pastor. How are you?
Good morning.
Okay. Either one, please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Yes, my name is Pastor Jay Broadnax. I'm pastor of Mount Pisgah AME Church in West Philadelphia and a board member of the West Powelton Saunders Park RCO. And I'm here in support of Bill number 240058 concerning the use of in lieu payments made by developers to purchase density bonuses to get around the requirement to include affordable housing in their projects. And you've just heard from others how the projects taking place are generating much in millions in lieu payments, especially in our West Powelton neighborhood. And I believe that the spirit and intent of the density bonuses requirement is good. It's intended to make sure that somehow the seemingly unbridled development that is going on in certain sections of the city like ours does not lead to homogeneous and exclusive neighborhoods through the spread of the cancer of gentrification. It's intended to provide resources to make sure that there are units being built in those neighborhoods that ordinary folk can afford. The problem is that the funds that are generated through the provision do not serve that purpose. The monies generated by development in our backyards end up being added to the general fund, thereby being a discretionary cash cow applied to purposes that it was never intended to fund. So the city's housing trust fund goes underfunded and more folks are priced out of their neighborhoods. In addition, even when it does go to the housing trust fund, the spirit of the provision is to ensure that the neighborhoods directly affected by the development, not some area that has no connection to the generation of those funds, get the benefit. With all of the demands on city revenues, that will never happen unless it's made to happen by this bill. I look around and I see the renewal going on, which is a good thing. But I also look around and I see faces that have been there for years, leaving, forced out. Let's fix this policy so that there's plenty good room for them and their children to stay around. Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you for your testimony. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Elizabeth Waring, and I'm a member of the West Powelton Saunders Park RCO. Also, I manage the Holly Street Garden, and I'm saying these things because of development and the pressures and constant calls and other things being done because they want the garden
for one, to develop also the homes. So when I started in the neighborhood and bought my home 44-plus years ago, it was a great place to live, and I could afford to live there, raise my children there. We have less homeowners and more high-density buildings, stacking of people. And this has really created a problem. I'd like for my children to come back to the area where they grew up in, but they can't afford to do it. So in seeing the constant development and what used to be multi-family units of 3 units, they are multiple in terms of hundreds now. And it's just too much of a problem, and I don't know what's going to be done. I see certain neighborhoods, particularly West Powelton, being more developed than some areas, but I'm definitely in support of the bill and bringing some of that money back, and hopefully not just a penny on the dollar, so that we could have more mixed income that people can afford to come back and stay and raise their children, and let it be the continued, like United Nations, that it had been with all races. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Is there anyone else here who would like to give public testimony, whose name hasn't been called? And there are no more questions or comments from members of the committee? Okay, all right.
I just wanted to thank both of them for their testimony, but moreover, all of your work in the community. We're grateful for all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, and so hearing no other witnesses here to testify, I want to thank the witnesses and for their participation today on Bill number 240058. Madam Clerk, please call the first panel we have to testify this morning on Bill number 240157.
Shane Dowd, Director of Government Affairs for the Department of Aviation.
Good morning. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Shane Dowd, Director of Government Affairs for the Philadelphia International Airport, the Department of Aviation. Good morning, Chair Bass and members of the Committee on Rules. My name is Shane Dowd, Director of Government Affairs for the Department of Aviation, which manages both Philadelphia International Airport and Northeast Philadelphia airports. I'm here to testify in support of Bill number 240157, which would clarify responsibilities of the Department of Aviation and eliminate provisions related to passenger charges. A thorough summary of these changes was shared in advance of this hearing. Most of these changes are technical in nature and update aspects of the Philadelphia Code that still reference the Department of Commerce and Division of Aviation as overseeing PHL and P&E. As this committee may recall, these functions were transferred to the Department of Aviation as a result of a change to the Home Rule Charter early in 2023. This ordinance also eliminates federally preempted language in the Philadelphia Code relating to locally assessed passenger charges. Section 18204 of the Philadelphia Code, which was enacted in 1976, authorized a local passenger charge. Several years later, in 1996, this section of the Philadelphia Code was preempted by federal legislation, USC 40116. This federal law, known as the Anti-Head Tax Act, prohibits states and localities from assessing a fee, tax, or head charge on an individual traveling in air commerce. As this local charge cannot be assessed, our team recommends removing the language from the Philadelphia Code. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present testimony today on Bill number 240157. I kindly request adoption of the amendments related to this ordinance. These amendments include additional technical changes to the code that were caught after bill introduction. I respectfully ask for the committee for adoption of the amendments, a favorable recommendation of the ordinance, and that the rules be suspended to allow first reading at the next session of council.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions from members of the committee? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on this bill, Bill number 240157? Okay, and seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony today. Madam Clerk, please call the next witness for Bill number 240242.
Paula Brumbelow Burns, Director of Legislation, Philadelphia City Planning Commission.
I am Paula Bremblow Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill Number 240242, introduced into City Council on April 4th, 2024 by Councilmember Jones Jr. Bill Number 240242 amends the Philadelphia Zoning Code by amending Section 14-524 entitled FDO, 4th District Overlay District, to establish use regulations on medical facilities in the Winfield Heights neighborhood of the West Park Planning District. This bill establishes a medical facility control area in the Winfield Heights neighborhood within boundaries that include Ford Road, Conshohocken Avenue, and the Schuylkill Expressway. The overlay would prohibit the medical, dental, and health practitioner and hospital uses within overlay boundaries. The effect of the bill is to limit future medical facilities in the neighborhood. Planning Commission staff would note that the zoning bill does not change the status of legally nonconforming medical uses and prohibit the medical uses described, and could limit access to needed health care. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill Number 240242 at its public meeting on April 18, 2024, and recommended the bill not for approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you for your testimony. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Always a pleasure to
It is.
discuss things with the planning department. My nickname for them is the Department of No. You always tell us no, and I understand you have to take those positions, but as a district councilperson who knows his respective communities, we try to err on the side of the community. And in this case, the good news is that I am really working well with the developer of this site. We are very close to figuring it out. But when I introduced this legislation, colleagues, it was to make sure that there was a bullet in the gun just in case. Now, whether I was going to pull it and shoot it and use it is something I think with prayer and working together collegially that the developer and the community will figure it out. But, so what I am recommending at this point is that we pass it out of committee without a rule suspension so that we can keep it there as the progress of this particular site. And maybe I'll elaborate on the site. And I want you to know, and let me prefix my remarks for the stenographer, I support rehabilitation of people who have drug dependencies, not just in my words, but in my deeds. We have Parkside Recovery on Parkside Avenue, which we've worked out for now over a decade, good neighbor relationships. We've actually figured it out so that the community isn't overly burdened with, that the property values in the neighborhood aren't negatively affected, and the people, more importantly, that need that work, need those services, get it. We further went along with the, I think it was Project Home on Parkside Avenue, am I right? We approved a facility for women who are coming back off of those kinds of dependencies. So our history speaks for itself. However, in this case, we have to be cautious because of the mass impact that 300 beds can have on Winfield Heights. Now, I don't, names like Blondell Reynolds Brown live across the street, retired judges of all types that I have to hear from want to know what is going on in their neighborhoods. So therefore, we have put this in place. I am, again, I'm gonna say for the record, I am happy with where we are in the negotiations with the developer. However, we don't want it to go south, and we love the Planning Commission weighing in on issues germane to our districts, even if you're wrong. Paul was. All right, so thank you for your testimony.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to thank my district Councilmember Jones, for introducing 240242 after much robust discussion with the Winfield Heights community. I know there has been grave concern relative to one particular site, but I think overall relative to how development is taking place in the community. And so I appreciate the feedback from the Planning Commission and the work that you all do, but I just wanted to underscore the importance of ensuring that the community is represented in these planning decisions and ensuring that the uses that they want to see in their communities are always considered as a top priority. So thank you very much, and thank you, Councilmember Jones.
Thank you very much. And this is a very timely topic. I know that Councilman Jones has been on the forefront of, recovery and transitional housing, and just really, like a lot of different issues that are similarly related in your district for a very long time. I don't want to say how many years, because I don't want to make it seem like you're old or anything. Yeah, but I know that you've been working on it for a long time. But I just wanted to add this, and we have a resolution that we're actually holding. And we wanted to see how things are going to unfold over the summer months, because there is a lot of concern about the amount of transitional housing that's happening throughout the city of Philadelphia right now. And I think, I just wanted to say on the record, I think that our biggest problem is that we as a city have not properly provided the level of enforcement and just, I say policing, but for lack of a better word, but just sort of oversight. We have not provided the level of oversight that we should provide that would make facilities better and communities more embracing of these particular sites. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So thank you for your bill, and I thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else, or actually, Madam Clerk, can you call the next witness to testify?
Cheryl White.
Good morning.
My name is Cheryl White. I want to thank all of you who are before me today and working hard to represent the city's best interests and the best interests, obviously, of the communities therein. I represent Park Plaza Condominium. It is a vertical community, 350 units. We have over 700 people living in this condominium community, and we are located at 3900 Ford Road, right within Winfield Heights. So I'm here to support this bill. I think it's very important that communities be involved and be represented and respected, especially as it relates to concerns of density, traffic, parking, et cetera. And this particular bill, as I understand it, puts a level of oversight, as one of you mentioned, at the forefront of developers and other entities coming into the community. And so with that in mind, if, as it relates to issues of medical concerns, et cetera, if that puts some level of responsibility with the RCO for the various areas to have oversight of what and who is coming into the community, that's very important to me, and it's one of the primary reasons that I support this bill. So I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to represent my community and its interests, and for all of the work that each of you do, respectfully.
Well, thank you so much for your testimony, for being here today. Chair recognizes, okay, we thank you for coming down. No questions for the witness today. So we thank you for coming and joining us and giving us your testimony.
Thank you, my pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, is there anyone else here to testify on this bill 240242, whose name has not been called, or anyone else who wants to speak on this bill? Hearing none, I want to thank all of the witnesses for participating on Bill number 240242. And Madam Clerk, please call the first panel we have to testify this morning on Bill number 240332.
Angel Rodriguez, Deputy Executive Director, Real Estate Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority.
I don't see Angel here.
Angel Rodriguez has submitted written testimony.
Okay. Is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 240332? No? Okay. And seeing no one, Madam Clerk, please call the witnesses to testify on Bill number 240368.
Philip Green, Senior Manager, Business Advocacy, Department of Commerce.
Good morning.
Hello, good to
Please
see you
state
all.
your name for the record and proceed.
Philip Green with the Department of Commerce. Good morning, Chairwoman Bass and members of City Council. My name is Philip Green, and I'm Senior Manager of Business Advocacy within the Department of Commerce. My primary role at Commerce is to assist and advocate for the needs of the city's 15 business improvement districts. I'm here to testify in support of Bill number 240368, providing for the reauthorization of the East Passyunk Business Improvement District. In 2002, property owners and business people along East Passyunk and a segment of South Broad Street created a bid to fund enhancements for their district. Their bid assessments have funded marketing and promotions, special events, cleaning and beautification, assistance to local businesses, and other activities. Commerce has been pleased to support these efforts through business grants such as the Storefront Improvement Program and support for the bid's operations through the CDC Tax Credit Program. The bid's work has been complemented by cleaning and property acquisition, management and business recruitment provided by a separate organization called the Passyunk Avenue Revitalization Corporation. We're pleased to see both organizations working together to provide the critical services that the area needs to remain strong. Over the 22 years since the bid first launched, the district has become a nationally renowned dining destination and a vibrant gatherings place for neighbors and visitors. The bid has been instrumental in this growth, but to maintain the district and the organization's forward momentum, it must increase its assessment revenue. The budget proposed in this reauthorization will gradually bring East Passyunk Avenue bids assessment revenue on par with bids of similar size and scope of services elsewhere in the city. The leadership and services the bid provides are critical to maintaining the success that have established along with their partners. These efforts deserve the support of the city. Thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none from members of the committee. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 240368? Yes. Okay. Please come forward, state your name for the record, and proceed with your testimony.
My name is Michelle Gillen-Gibraj. Good morning, Chairperson Bass and members of the Rules Committee. My name is Michelle Gillen-Gibraj, and I'm the president of the Board of Directors for the East Passyunk Avenue Business Improvement District. I own Tildy's Toy Box, located at 1829 East Passyunk Avenue, a retail store focusing on gender-neutral toys, books, and gifts for all ages. I opened the store in 2016 and currently have 4 employees at my Philadelphia location. I also have another location in Haddonfield, New Jersey. As I just mentioned, I'm also the president of the East Passyunk Avenue Business Improvement District. I've been a board member since September of 2020, and I joined the bid in order to be involved in the community on a deeper level and to do my best to support the businesses on East Passyunk Avenue through event planning, outreach, and attracting people to the avenue. Established in 2002, East Passyunk Avenue bid was formed to address increasing vacancies on the avenue and revitalize the commercial corridor. Now serving approximately 300 properties and over 200 businesses, The East Passyunk bid encompasses a 1-mile stretch of East Passyunk Avenue from South Broad Street to Federal Street, South Broad Street between Mifflin and Snyder Avenue, and several adjacent properties to East Passyunk Avenue at major intersections. Of the businesses within the bid's boundaries, the vast majority are locally owned mom-and-pop shops, with only a handful of storefronts being national chains and/or big-box retailers. Further, about half of the businesses along East Passyunk Avenue are women-owned. The mix of businesses on the avenue is wide-ranging from bars and restaurants to boutique shops and salons to consumer and professional services. This mix of businesses is one of the main reasons East Passyunk is so walkable and accessible, coupled with the proximity to not one, but 3 Broad Street line stops, several bus routes, and an Indigo bike share in the heart of the district. Residents and visitors alike are able to address most, if not all, of their commercial needs in one place. The bid provides essential services to the avenue, like street cleaning and sidewalk sweeping. The bid also supports the businesses through marketing and PR initiatives, facade improvement grants, and hosting events to draw people to the avenue. We focus on making East Passyunk Avenue an attractive hotspot, not only within Philadelphia, but the surrounding suburbs and tourists as well. Over the years, the first-floor commercial vacancy rate in East Passyunk has been as low as 5%. Currently, the vacancy rate is around 10%, which, while higher than historically average, is still considerably lower than most other parts of the city. Businesses are continuing to navigate a post-COVID world where attitudes toward dining and shopping continue to change. With the changing economy, the EPA bid is essential in continuing to provide support and guidance to businesses through the changing climate. Earlier this year, the East Passyunk bid launched a survey to evaluate the needs of our constituents and the greater community. Not only were bid property and business owners notified via individual email and postcard mailings, but so was the general public via email, marketing campaigns, social media, and our website. Over the course of a month, the survey garnered over 360 responses, the majority of which came from immediate residents of the East Passyunk Crossing and Passyunk Square neighborhoods. 20%, however, were bid property and/or business owners. This needs assessment summary was presented to membership virtually on Monday evening, March 6th, and subsequently posted on the EPA bid's website. This feedback was then used to drive the bid's 5-year plan, of which the details I will get into next. This final plan was then presented to the membership in a second meeting on Tuesday morning, April 2nd, and also subsequently posted on our website. The general consensus of the survey was threefold: continue programming and events and marketing the avenue, reduce storefront vacancies and diversify the business mix, and make Passyunk Avenue a more pedestrian-friendly and create more public spaces. These directives are very much in line with the bid's current mission and service offerings, so today's proposed bid plan aims to continue that work. While there are no real changes to the bid's proposed services and programs, there are several changes to the bid's budget, method of assessment, and boundaries. Over the past 15 years, prices have increased by 50% due to inflation. During that same time period, however, the EPA bid's assessment revenue has been locked and remained ostensibly flat at $200,000 a year. To compound matters, EPA bid used to receive funding from the Pennsylvania Downtown Center's Main Street program, which provided $50,000 in supplemental staff salary and $25,000 in facade improvements. With the discontinuation of that program several years ago and the inability to keep up with inflation, the bid's budget has lost significant buying power over the years. To right the bid's budget to a sustainable level, the bid is increasing its year one budget by $75,000 to $275,000. In years 2 to 5, the plan allows the board to implement a maximum 7% year-over-year increase to eventually catch the budget up with inflation. In addition to flat assessment revenues, the bid's method of assessment calculation considerably limited the bid's ability to maximize collectible assessments and update property owners' assessments to reflect the changing property values. In this proposed plan, the method of assessment would move to a budget-based model, a common practice and best practice among all other bids in the city. In this method, current year assessments will be based on the recent Office of Property Assessment market values as of April 1st of the preceding year, and each property would pay a portion of the bid budget proportional to their total market value of all assessable properties in the district. There are a few exceptions to this calculation. First, Owner-occupied and tax-exempt properties would be excluded from the equation entirely. Also, properties with outlying market values will either pay a $365 per year, equivalent to $1 a day, or a maximum of 9% of bid budget. The minimum assessment would only apply to properties with structures built on them. In other words, empty lots and patios would still be assessed, but excused from the $365 minimum. By our estimates, this minimum would apply to a dozen or so properties within our district. The capped assessment at $25,000 per year in year one would only affect one property in our district, the Constitution Health Plaza at 1930 South Broad Street. The last set of changes to the bid plan are a handful of additional properties. A few parcels within East Passyunk Avenue frontage were mistakenly left out of prior ordinances because of misleading mailing address, as an example of which being 1304 to 06 South 9th Street that doubles as 1303 and 1305 East Passyunk Avenue. 833 Wharton Street and 1100 Wharton Street, on the other hand, are being added because they were recently developed and are speculated for major development, respectively. In summation, I support the bid because I have seen firsthand as a resident, then a business owner, a board member, and now the board president, how much the community and businesses benefit from a bid. Things that go unnoticed on the avenue, like street cleaning, become apparent once you step outside our boundaries. Commercial corridors without bids suffer from a lack of PR and events. Less tangible is the sense of community and belonging that comes with a bid. We are a diverse group with a shared goal of bettering our community, supporting our businesses, and creating something special. The bid is the glue of the neighborhood, and I've had the opportunity to see that from many viewpoints. We appreciate the assistance provided by Councilman Squilla and his staff and request your support in reauthorizing the East Passyunk Avenue Business Improvement District. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for your testimony. Councilman Squilla?
Thank you. I want to thank you for all the hard work and dedication to it. I mean, it's always challenging when we're dealing with all different types of businesses and you know, ownership, but also dealing with community issues and concerns that surround the corridor. And it's not always an easy job, but I know that it's a lot of hard work, and we appreciate that, and we appreciate how East Passyunk has been able to adapt to changes and challenges along the way. So hopefully we'll be able to move that forward and continue another 5 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from members of the committee? No, seeing none. Okay, thank you very much for your testimony. And is there anyone else here to testify on this bill? Please come forward. State your name for the record and proceed. Is there anyone else also here for this particular bill?
Hello.
Yes.
My name is Jody Schweitzer.
Good morning. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Jody Schweitzer. Can
proceed?
You
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I am here representing myself at 1325-29 East Passyunk Avenue, and my neighbor Freddie and Janet Daddy, longtime residents of 1323 East Passyunk Avenue. They cannot attend due to medical procedures they're having today, and they asked me to speak on their behalf. They live on a fixed income, and this yearly assessed fee will only gouge their already limited income that has also been reduced by the OPA. Our neighborhood has been dramatically overtaxed in the past couple years. I've been fighting the OPA for years now. I'm not even going to tell you how much my building has been assessed now. But anyway, the beautification that the Passyunk Business Improvement District has instituted seems to really help the younger businesses and not the older residents. And I just bring this forward because in case Freddie is an older resident, and we still don't have trash cans on our block. The beautification definitely is happening, but if anything we're feeling is the overtaxing of our properties. Freddie wanted me to also say that him and his wife have been harassed repeatedly at their home and at their property on Passyunk Avenue by someone from the business district. And as a gentleman, he did not disclose this person's name, but he wanted me to say that he is really grateful that she finally gave up. They wanted to buy his property. I understand that the Business Improvement District really wants to make it a better avenue, a thoroughfare. They already own several properties, and And according to the Exhibit A, Section 4, they determine who gets, extra funding as a business and who doesn't. That being said, a Noisy Brewery exists across the street from me, and they got help when a coffee shop down the street from me, where neighbors actually really congregated, didn't get the help they needed to stay afloat. I know that was a personal thing, but still, it seems to me that there is favoritism, and us who have been there more than 20 years before this was even put into effect, don't necessarily see the results. I know that they need a third of the residents need to protest the renewal, and I know I'm only one of two residents. But I would be remiss for me not to be here to basically speak for the 1300 block of Passyunk Avenue. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for your testimony. Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Yes, thank you for your testimony. And so do you own the property at 13?
I've owned it and lived there since 2000.
You owned it since 2000? And is it a fully residential?
I live on the 3rd floor. I have a tenant on the 2nd floor.
And the 1st floor is retail?
No. It's been unoccupied because I can't find any contractors to work for me.
So it's unoccupied?
Yeah.
And did you get a letter about the bid that you received, a packet?
Yeah, it's right here.
And did you submit a request back?
No, I did not, sir. I'm not sure I understand what that was supposed to do.
Well, when the bid goes out, you get to respond whether you oppose the bid or not.
Oh, I thought that's what I was doing by showing up here today.
Oh, okay.
My misunderstanding.
No, during the packet, you respond. 1/3 of the people, 1/3 of the ownership of the properties, if they respond in a negative way, the bid would not move forward.
Oh, and how does one respond without?
When you get your packet, there's a response in the packet that you send in.
Okay.
So, but I'd be happy to work with you on your assessments because the bid does not do OPA assessments. They work their assessments off of OPA. If you are believing that you're being overassessed for OPA, my office will work with you on that.
When I was suing the OPA, your office did try to help me, but it didn't really do much. But I would love to redo that if that's possible.
Okay, we'll work with you on the assessed values and the other issue about the residents. They only the property owner pays the assessment to the bid, and it's based on your OPA value. So if your assessment goes down, your bid payment also goes down.
Right, yeah, the assessments don't go down, they just haven't. I've tried, I really
And
tried.
you have appealed them in the past?
I'm sorry?
You have appealed the assessments in the past?
Twice.
Twice?
Yeah, I was in court twice with a lawyer, had to pay the fees. So, I'm trying, I'm really trying. But I feel like an uphill battle because the OPA is determined that my property is, I'm undervaluing my property, but that's a whole other conversation.
Right.
So.
I'd like to talk to you offline on that and see if we could help in any way.
I would appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Councilman Squilla. Chair recognizes the next witness. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Giangiordano II. Thank you, Chairperson Bass, Councilmember Squilla, and other members of the Rules Committee. I am a board member of the East Passyunk BID as well as a business owner. My dad and I own Century 21 Forester located on the avenue, as well as being a property owner and, more importantly, a neighbor. And I just am here in support of this bill to reauthorize our bid for another 5 years because the East Passyunk corridor is really the lifeline of our neighborhood, and it really embodies Main Street America, and the work that we do at the BID is really important to our community. So thank you. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And is there anyone else here to testify on bill number 240368? Anyone else here to testify on bill number 240368? Anyone? Please come forward now. Okay, please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Hi, my name is Ann Lasufka, and I'm a consultant for the East Passyunk bid on their reauthorization. I just wanted to make some clarifying statements in regards to Ms. Schweitzer's testimony. I really do thank her for coming here and giving her her feedback this year. However, according to our invoicing records, she actually has not been assessed by the East Passyunk district at all during its tenure. So moving forward, she was labeled as owner occupied. We definitely understand hardships and that sort of thing. However, moving forward next year, if she were to be assessed because it's 50% owner occupied, she can apply for an exemption, and then the exemption would be applied accordingly. However, to date, she has not contributed any portion via assessments to the bid.
Okay. All right, thank you for the clarification. Any other councilman? Okay. Anyone else here to testify on bill number 240368? All right, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call. Madam Clerk, please call forward the witnesses to testify on bill number 240385.
Paula Brumbelow Burns, Director of Legislation, Philadelphia City Planning Commission.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your name for the record and proceed.
I am Paula Brumbelow Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill Number 240385, introduced into City Council on May 2nd, 2024 by Councilmember Squilla. Bill Number 240385 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning of land located within an area bounded by Snyder Avenue, 6th Street, Cantrell Street, and 7th Street in the Whitman neighborhood of the South Planning District. This bill will change the existing CMX1 to CMX2 Commercial Mixed Use District for a portion of the block bounded by Snyder Avenue, 6th Street, Cantrell Street, and 7th Street. The change in zoning will reflect the commercial nature of the block and will support the construction of a new headquarters and community center for the Southeast Asian Mutual Assistance Association Coalition. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission considered Bill Number 240385 at its public meeting on May 16, 2024, and recommended the bill for approval. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you. Any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, is there anyone else here to testify on this bill? And we thank you for your testimony today on Bill Number 240385. Madam Clerk, please call forward the testifier on Bill Number 240415.
Paula Brumbelow Burns, Director of Legislation, Philadelphia City Planning Commission.
Welcome back.
It was a quick trip this time.
Please state your name for the record and proceed.
I am Paula Brumbelow Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill Number 240415, introduced into City Council on May 9, 2024, by Councilmember Gilmore Richardson for Council President Johnson. Bill Number 240415 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning within an area bounded by Island Avenue, the Delaware Expressway, and Bartram Avenue in the Eastwick neighborhood with the Southwest Planning District. This bill will rezone a portion of land that is located along Interstate 95 and the exit ramps for the airport and Bartram Avenue. The property is currently a vacant office building that is zoned CMX3 Commercial Mixed Use and will change to I2 Medium Industrial. The use will support the preservation of land for industrial uses that reinforce PHL operations. The staff of the Planning Commission will be recommending for approval as this supports the preservation of land for industrial uses and reinforcing PHL operations within the Philadelphia 2035 citywide vision. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider Bill Number 240415 at its public meeting on June 6, 2024. I will be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony. Is there anyone else here to testify on Bill Number 240415? Nope, okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, please call the next witness to testify on Bill Number 240421. Guess what it is?
Paula Brumbelow Burns, Director of Legislation, Philadelphia City Planning Commission.
Hello again.
Hello, we're doing fast trips today.
All right, moving right along. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony on Bill number 240421.
I am Paula Brumbelow Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill number 240421, introduced into City Council on May 9th, 2024 by Councilmember Jones. Bill number 240241 amends the Philadelphia zoning code and maps by changing the zoning maps for land bounded by Valley Avenue, Domino Lane, Ridge Avenue, Paoli Avenue, Peachin Street, Ridge Avenue, Hermit Street, and Henry Avenue. The bill also will add Section 14-541 Ridge Avenue Neighborhoods Overlay, RAN, impacting several neighborhoods along Ridge Avenue of the Lower Northwest Planning District. This bill will update zoning for several properties along Ridge Avenue for a 5-mile stretch from Crescent Street to Domino Lane. The zoning will correctively zone commercial and multifamily properties. The existing Ridge Avenue Neighborhood Conservation Area, NCA, will be moved to a new unique overlay and will also apply to large residential properties that are zoned RM1 residential multifamily. The overlay will also add in new requirements that will allow for right-sizing new developments to be more in character with the surrounding neighborhoods. The staff of the Planning Commission will be recommending approval for this bill. Our office has worked over 2 years with a consortium of impacted community organizations and members to address concerns along Ridge Avenue to create this relocated overlay and update the zoning maps. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider Bill number 240241 at its public meeting on June 6, 2024. I will be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much. Chair recognizes Councilmember Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank you for being supportive of this legislation. And see, we can all get along. Thank you so very much.
It was our pleasure. It was a very long process, but every community group along that stretch was at every single meeting we had over the 2 years, so it really was beneficial.
Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Any other questions from members of the committee? Seeing none? Okay, thank you for your testimony. And is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 240421? Okay, please come forward and state your name for the record. Good morning. Please state your name and proceed.
Good morning. My name is John Carpenter. Thank you, Chairwoman Bass, Councilman Jones, and members of the Rules Committee. My name is John Carpenter, and I'm here today as president of the Central Roxborough Civic Association. As a registered civic organization, CRCA has hosted many public presentations of proposed developments that require variances through the zoning review process. Through these public meetings, we have heard a great deal of public comment regarding these proposals. We also heard concerns about the numerous projects that have been built by right without formal input over the past few years. As the volume of this development increased, the neighbors of these projects grew increasingly concerned that their quality of life was being eroded by these projects. As a result, over the past more than 2 years, CRCA worked with our neighboring RCOs, including the Ridge Park Civic, Wissahickon Interested Citizens Association, the Wissahickon Neighborhood Civic Association, as well as the Roxborough Development Corporation and the City Planning Commission to develop the bill that's before you today. A few weeks ago, we also hosted a public meeting attended by well over 100 residents where this bill was presented and discussed in detail. The bill modifies the Ridge Avenue Neighborhood Commercial Area Overlay to address many of the concerns we heard from neighbors at the past few years of public meetings. It regulates the multifamily developments that have up until this point not been subject to any overlay regulations. It allows developers to build and use underground parking facilities for their tenants that had been previously forbidden by a prior version of this overlay. It creates increased setbacks and lower height limits in sections of Ridge Avenue to help development better fit into our already diverse, historic, and thriving community. The conversation that was had a few bills ago this morning is important to us because the other thing our bill does is it preserves the incentives for affordable housing development in our neighborhood, but it insists that if a developer takes advantage of those density bonuses, that money be spent in that property to create affordable units in that property. I understand that may be a little extreme version of what you were talking about this morning, but we've had probably more than 2,000 units of new housing built in our neighborhood, and not a single one of those units is affordable to the children of people who grew up in our neighborhood. We think that's appalling, and we would like to see that changed. This bill also promotes the development of new commercial space at the ground level that can be used by businesses like restaurants and retailers by requiring suitable ceiling heights, 14-foot minimum ceiling heights, so that HVAC and other basic systems to support those kinds of businesses can be installed, and you still have a spacious space for that use. It requires appropriate parking for new residential units to ensure that these projects do not adversely affect existing residents. And finally, it rezones a number of properties along the avenue to better fit their current uses or their planned best use. We want to thank the Planning Commission staff, Councilman Jones, and your staff, and the many residents who took the time to raise their concerns with our organizations over the past few years, and we urge you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Jacqueline Cusack. I am the Executive Director of the Roxborough Development Corporation. Thank you for having us here today, Councilman Bass and the Rules Committee. Roxborough Development Corporation is the nonprofit entity that manages the Ridge Avenue Business Improvement District. And I'm here today to express our support for the Ridge Avenue Neighborhoods Overlay. As John mentioned, we worked with the 5 other RCOs in the neighborhood, along with the Philadelphia Planning Commission, in a very lengthy process to find the balance. The neighborhood of Roxborough along Ridge Avenue has a very unique fabric that defines our area, and I believe this overlay is essential for preserving and enhancing the neighborhood's character. Ridge Avenue is not just a thoroughfare, it's a lifeline of the community of Roxborough. It's in a period of transition that is looking to bridge the legacy businesses and legacy residents with the transformation along the business corridor. As many of the areas of Philadelphia in the last few years have seen rapid, large-scale, dense development, Ridge Avenue is experiencing the same thing. The recent development, however, has not always balanced the needs of the residents and the existing business community with the vision of the developers. The proposed overlay seeks to address this imbalance by ensuring the future developments are thoughtful, sustainable, and in harmony with the existing neighborhood. The overlay presents a comprehensive plan that supports increased density while maintaining the character and livability of our community with a clear understanding of compromise and long-term planning. By implementing these changes for future development, we can ensure that the growth is managed in a way that benefits everyone. This means more opportunities for businesses to thrive without compromising the quality of life for residents. It means safer, more walkable streets, better public spaces, and more vibrant community overall. One of the critical components of this overlay is the creation of different height limits on different segments of the avenue. By implementing these restrictions, we can preserve the aesthetic continuation and historical significance of Ridge Avenue while preventing the overshadowing of smaller and historic buildings. The topography of Roxborough is challenging, and this careful planning is crucial for maintaining the unique skyline and ensuring the new construction are harmonious with the existing structures. Additionally, the incorporation of residential multifamily parcels into the overlay and the remapping of the parcels to align with their current use or the parameters of this overlay is paramount. This strategy ensures that the zoning reflects the actual needs and uses of the area, providing clarity and stability for both residents and developers. I believe by doing so, we can create a cohesive and well-organized community structure that supports diverse housing options and meets the evolving demands of our neighborhood. Roxborough's strength lies in its growing diversity and the strong sense of community among its residents. The Ridge Avenue Neighborhoods Overlay recognizes this by incorporating community input and addressing concerns about preserving the essence of our area. It promotes mixed-use development that cater to modern needs while respecting the heritage and scale of our neighborhood. Moreover, the overlay supports strategic density by encouraging development in targeted areas. We can provide more housing options and reduce sprawl, leading to more efficient uses of resources and better infrastructure. This will help us accommodate new residents and businesses in a way that is sustainable and beneficial for all. The RDC urges the Rules Committee to adopt the Ridge Avenue's Neighborhood Overlay. This plan represents a balanced and forward-thinking approach to development that respects the unique identity of Roxborough's neighborhoods while promoting growth and sustainability. I just want to thank the Philadelphia Planning Commission staff, Member Jones and his staff for the guidance during this process and for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions? Councilman Jones?
Not a question, Madam Chair, but a comment.
Okay.
I want to thank them for their continued work. This didn't just pop here today. This is over a year's worth of work collectively with the respective organizations along the ridge. What the privilege I have to represent the corridor is that George Washington walked up and down Ridge Avenue, spent the night there, and I can only say that some of those buildings still exist because of overlays like this. I would also say that it is one of the best small towns in the city of Philadelphia. And because of the character of the architecture that is being preserved and kind of blending some of the design to match that, it's a great walkable space. And I appreciate Passyunk Avenue. I used to work down there, remember Squilla in another life at PCDC, but y'all ain't got nothing on Ridge Avenue. Yeah, I remember that. PCDC. John Geraci, a guy who used to represent the Passyunk Avenue. So I look forward to the continued work that we're doing to preserve some of the qualities of a small town while encouraging development. People need places to live, but the people who, similar to your plea today, that people who live there through the good times and the challenging times should be able to afford to live there and their children live there in the future. And I would only say that Ridge Avenue is only second to Germantown Avenue by way of historic significance. Like you guys probably have one of the most historic corridors, business strips in the city of Philadelphia. So thank you for your work. We appreciate it. And the unnamed staffer that has worked so hard on this, his name is Joshua Cohen. And he fights very hard for these areas, all of the district, but in particular that district, part of the district, because he lives there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gauthier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to, commend Councilmember Jones on this bill, but also on what sounds like a really robust community engagement and community planning process. And wanted to thank our testifiers. Special thanks to Mr. Carpenter for your comments on my bill and just for your work overall. When I was just starting off my career at LISC, I was looking to people like you and others in housing and community and economic development to learn, right? So thank you so much, not only for today, but for your work in the city over a very long period. Not as long as when George Washington was walking the streets, but definitely for several decades. Thank you.
Thank you. We're lucky to have him up there.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your testimony today. Thank you, Councilwoman Gauthier and Jones. Is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 240421? Anyone? Anyone? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, please call the next testifier for Bill number 240426. And while we prepare for them, I would like to open this up first to Councilwoman Ketsi Lozada, who had some comments, some opening comments. Council Lady?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For years, the Northeast Philadelphia has been one of the residents. There's been a need for health services. The Northeast has been a public health desert for a really long time. Health Center 10 has more than 4 times the average wait time for initial visits for children at the city's other health centers, and nearly twice the time for adults. The Health Department, the Department of Health produced a proposal to establish 2 new health centers that would close this gap in coverage. providing more people with care and making our communities healthier. The proposed health center located at the Friends Hospital campus will offer comprehensive adult and pediatric care, an on-site pharmacy, radiology, dental care, a lab, women's health services, prenatal care, insurance counselors, health navigators, and behavioral health counselors. These services are very important to making our communities safer and healthier for all. Upon my arrival in council in 2022, I was under the impression that robust community engagement around this project had been conducted. I found as we began the process that I was wrong, and I wanted to ensure that we provided patients, providers, and community residents an opportunity to voice their concerns, their support or comments around the project. And so my office held 5 community meetings that the health center, around the areas of where the health center would serve. At each meeting, the room was at or near capacity and filled with passionate residents interested to learn more. At the conclusion of each presentation, residents were able to ask questions and give testimony about their concerns and just learn more about the project. I would like to thank community residents, some of whom are here today, who participated in those meetings. Your active engagement throughout this process ensured a vigorous, properly vetted analysis of this proposal. I would also like to thank the city's Public Health Department, Councilmember Phillips, whose constituents will also likely use this health center, and former Councilmember Sharon Vaughn, who's also the ward leader, who attended the meetings and helped bring out members of the community. It is after these meetings with each of these public officials and community residents that I decided to move forward with the proposal, and I encourage my colleagues to provide a favorable recommendation on this bill. There is a lot of controversy when new things are happening in different neighborhoods, and there's always questions, but my goal has always consistently been to ensure that a community engagement process does occur, and that people feel that their input was valued and respected, and more importantly, that it is taken into consideration. And I believe that after these 5 community meetings, we have done so. And so I ask for a favorable recommendation for this, for bill number 240426. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lozada, for your comments. Are there any other opening comments from members of the committee? No, seeing none. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony, Paula.
Hi, I'm Paula Bremblow Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill Number 240426, introduced into City Council on May 9th, 2024 by Councilmember Lozada. Bill Number 240426 amends the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning of land in an area bound by Roosevelt Boulevard, Adams Avenue, Ramona Street, Wyoming, and Whitaker Avenues in the Northwood neighborhood. This bill will correctively change the zoning district from RSA1, Residential Single Family Attached, to SP Civ, Special Purpose Civic for the Lower Northwest Friends Campus by allowing civic, educational, and medical special purpose land use to be permitted by right. The Philadelphia Department of Public Health is proposing a new city health center on the campus that will offer comprehensive primary care for adults and children. The proposed city health center will complement buildings and landscaping on the historic Friends Hospital campus. The new facility will also include a safe drop-off lane inside the campus for those with mobility impairments. Also, public transit improvements will be made to the existing SEPTA Langdon Street bus stop. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider Bill Number 240426 at its public meeting on June 6, 2024, and will recommend the bill for approval in accord with previous policy. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Okay. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Madam Chair. What's the dollar amount size of this project?
I do not know that answer at all.
I keep asking good questions.
You really do, and I don't have the answers today, but oh, I'm sorry, the council member may
Chair
know.
recognizes Councilwoman Lozada.
We have members of the health department here who will be able to respond to the size of the project, the number of patients it will serve. All of that was part of the analysis that was conducted as we worked towards moving the plan and the process forward. If that's okay with you, Councilmember Jones.
Yeah, can you provide those details to the chair? And, I mean, well, I support it.
They're going to offer it in
Oh,
their...
it's coming
in their
next
document,
week.
yes.
Great.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right. No other questions from the committee? Thank you for your testimony. Can we have the clerk please call forward the next group of witnesses?
Polak Raval Nelson, Deputy Health Commissioner, Department of Public Health, and Sarah Neff Thorpe, Chief of Staff for the Department of Public Health. And Adam Goldman, Executive Director, Philadelphia Unemployment Project.
Okay. Good morning. Is it still morning? Almost afternoon. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Dr. Palak Ravel Nelson, Deputy Health Commissioner for the Health Department.
And Sarah Enos, I'm the Chief of Staff for the Department of Public Health.
Okay. Please proceed.
Good morning, Chairperson Bass and members of the City Council Committee on Rules. As I stated, my name is Sarah Enos, and I'm the Chief of Staff for the Department of Public Health. And we thank you for the opportunity to testify in support of Bill number 240426, the rezoning of Roosevelt Boulevard, which will allow for the construction of a new City Health Center on the campus of Friends Hospital. The mission of the Department of Public Health is to protect and promote the health of all Philadelphians and to provide a safety net for people who are disproportionately impacted by societal factors that limit their access to health care and other resources necessary for optimal health. Access to primary and preventive medicine at the health centers enhances quality of life and improves overall health outcomes. In some cases, access to the health centers literally saves lives. The City Health Centers offer comprehensive primary and supportive health care services to all Philadelphians regardless of age, insurance status, and ability to pay. Most patients seeking care at the health centers live under the federal poverty line, and about 40% of them are uninsured. Patients at the health centers are our friends, neighbors, and relatives. They are children needing physical exams to play sports or attend school, people who have lost their health insurance, and seniors who can't afford their medications. In Northeast Philadelphia, there is currently one City Health Center located at Cottman and Bustleton, where wait times for new adult patient appointments are close to a year and new pediatric appointments are close to 6 months, both of which are entirely way too long. These long wait times force patients to forego care for chronic conditions like diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease, leading to diminished ability to work, support their families, enjoy a quality of life, which often leads, sadly, to shortened lives. For children, this can mean decreased access to routine physical exams and vaccinations, delaying the ability to enroll in or stay in school. The need for new health centers in the Northeast is not new, and the department has been working for many years to identify and secure funding and locations to build a new health center. We have been able to secure the funding to build 2 new health centers, one as part of an infill development project with the Frankfurt CDC near the Frankfurt Transportation Center, and one on the campus of the Friends Hospital. In searching for sites, we looked at proximity to public transportation and major arteries, space for parking, a large enough footprint to accommodate health center programming, visibility to the public, proximity to local amenities, a safe physical environment, and a building that can sustain heavy daily utilization for a long period of time. The site on the Friends Hospital campus meets these requirements, making it an ideal location for this health center. The site at Friends Hospital will accommodate about 30,000 patients per year and has plenty of space to accommodate both our current health center programs as well as provide room to grow to accommodate the changing needs of the community. The site offers a beautiful, serene environment where patients will be able to enjoy the walking trails and make use of the available green space. The campus has plenty of parking for patients who drive, and the health center will be located next to the Langdon Street signal light and SEPTA stop for those who utilize public transportation. The Philadelphia Department of Public Health strongly supports this rezoning legislation, which will allow for health center construction, and as a result, will help keep Philadelphians healthy. We would also like to thank Councilmember Lozada for her support of this project, and thank you to the committee for allowing us to testify. We're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony, Dr. Nelson. Oh, I'm sorry, did you have a question?
No,
I don't have any formal testimony, Councilmember. I'm just here to support and answer any questions.
Okay, Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
thank you so much. You mentioned in your testimony some of the unacceptable delays we now face with all health centers in the city of Philadelphia, and so I'm encouraged by this project to be some relief to that. And how does that relate to people who have diabetes seeking insulin and other? I've heard horrendous stories about there not being enough supply. And do we have our own separate supply within the city of Philadelphia?
So each health center has a health center pharmacy that dispenses medications to health center patients. And so once you are in the health center system as a patient, the on-site pharmacy can dispense medications. At this time, I don't know of any insulin shortages, but we have a pharmacy contract. We have a pharmacy wholesaler that, provides all medications sort of on a next day, delivery system.
Can you provide to the chair specifically about the insulin shortage that is going on because of Ozempic and this, that, and the other? There were times where people couldn't get their prescriptions filled. And I want to juxtapose that with a hearing on CVS, Rite Aid, to see how that impacts people within the city of Philadelphia. But the question becomes, is the city's health department the relief from that for many? So that, you don't have to answer that now. Could you provide that to the chair?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Any other questions for this panel? And seeing none, Councilman Lozada. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Lozada.
I'd also like to just add that in districts like mine, because of everything that we have been experiencing, because of the high volume of retail theft, because of just life, right? Quality of life. We have lost many of our pharmacies. They have left the district. Many of our just local doctors' offices have picked up and taken their practices to other spaces and other places. And so hearing from residents how long it takes for them to be able to see a doctor, hearing from residents the amount of, or the distance that they have to travel to be able to go see a physician. To me, even hearing some of the concerns from those who are opposing this project, to me, making sure that people have access to seeing a doctor was important. Making sure that residents are able to fill their prescriptions before walking out of the doctor's offices and not having to make an additional stop to be able to get the medication that they need to be able to live healthy, it was extremely important. And so I think that all of the opportunities that will be or could be available in a project like this one are opportunities that will create a healthier 7th Council district. And so, I want to say thank you to everyone who's been involved and who has participated in the conversations of this project, because, we all have the district's best interest at heart, and we understand that we're not going to make everyone happy, but we needed to make sure that the decisions were made in an effort to improve quality of life and make everyone healthier.
Thank you, Council Member. And can we have thank you very much for your testimony. Can we have the clerk call forward the next panel to testify?
Adam Goldman, Executive Director, Philadelphia Unemployment Project, Nathan Ferris, Ballard Spahr LLP Counsel, Carol Rogers, Vice Chair of PDPH Board of Directors, and Maria Cerna, Northeast Community Member.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Adam Goldman. I'm the director of the Philadelphia Unemployment Project. I'm going to keep mine brief because there are a number of folks, I think, who are going to give really great testimony, but this project is desperately needed. You've previously heard about the wait times at Health Center 10. I'm sure you're all aware of the quality, affordable health care that's provided at the city health centers. You've also previously heard about how the new health center on Roosevelt Boulevard would provide services to tens of thousands of residents from the Northeast. Whether or not they have insurance, whether or not they can afford to pay, whether they're unemployed, working, retired, whatever. Patients have really just waited long enough, and I think it's really time that this moves along because it's been years in the works. As Councilmember Lozada mentioned previously, she held a series of really great community events, community meetings, where I think there was a lot of support that was shown. In addition to that, hundreds of residents of the Northeast signed postcards and petitions in support of the project. And so I really just urge the committee to move this along so that they can begin construction and start seeing patients as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record and begin with your testimony.
Good morning, Madam Chair, council members. My name is Nathan Ferris. I'm with the law firm Ballard Spahr, and I have the honor of representing the Thomas Scattergood Foundation this morning, which is an organization with Quaker roots that owns the historic Friends campus. For more than 200 years, that campus has served the medical needs of the city's most vulnerable and forgotten people. And I don't know if George Washington walked there, but there is quite a legacy at this campus, and we're proud to be the stewards of that currently. The foundation is partnering with the Department of Public Health to build a new city health center on the Friends campus, which will address the urgent need for expanded primary care in Northeast Philadelphia. And we are very excited about this opportunity to further the campus's legacy of serving the neediest Philadelphians. And we're here today to encourage you to favorably report Bill number 24426 out of committee. This bill remaps the campus to the special purpose civic zoning classification, and this remapping is the last major regulatory hurdle to making this health center a reality. And without boring you with the details, I can tell you that I personally have been working on this project since 2020, and many people have been working on it for years before that, before I became involved. So this is a very exciting day for the whole project team, and passage of this bill is a major step toward making this desperately needed health center a reality. And I wanted to thank Councilmember Lozada for her incredible support of this project, as well as for helping us foster a robust community engagement process around this bill and the project, and we look forward to working with her on this health center as it continues to develop. And the foundation also wanted to thank the multiple public health commissioners and their staff who have worked tirelessly on this project. We simply would not be here today without the dedication, hard work, and skill of those public servants. And with that, I'm open to any questions, and otherwise urge you to favorably report the bill.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon, buenas tardes. My name is Carol Rogers. I would like to thank you, Councilwoman Bass, and other members, and particularly Councilwoman Ketsi Lozada for the chance, after many, many years, to testify today. I am Vice Chair of the Philadelphia City Health Center's Board of Directors. We oversee the operations of the City Health Centers, where we serve more than 80,000 Philadelphians each year, regardless of insurance, money to pay, or immigration status. I'm also a Philadelphia Department of Public Health retiree after 29 years of service, and I'm a member of the coalition that's been fighting for 2 new health centers in Northeast Philadelphia now. So I'm here to testify in support of this bill, which will permit the Department of Public Health to open one of 2 new health centers in Northeast Philadelphia on the Friends site. As you've heard, it's an urgent issue not only for the people of Northeast Philadelphia, but for all of us. I've testified many times in front of this body. Over 40 years ago, I testified here about this same issue. So I'm going to talk a little bit about numbers. I'm not going to bore you with numbers, but the need for a new health center to serve people living in the lower Northeast was identified as early as 2010 by the health department. At that time, 72,000 people were living in the 4 zip codes surrounding the area of the new health center. 72,000 people who had chronic diseases like high blood pressure and diabetes. 5% of them reported having had no health care in the previous year. And I thought about the years since then, 14 years, and I have those people on my mind. How many of them suffer from preventable conditions like stroke, heart attack, kidney failure, amputation, early death, because they were unable to get the care they needed then? And I struggle with the reality, how many would be healthier today if their healthcare needs had been met, if we had built a new health center then? How many of them would be alive today? Our city has the highest rate of people living with disabilities in the country. Would our rates be so painfully high if we had been able to serve the primary health needs of our people then? Okay, I'm going to give you another number, 305. It takes 305 days to get an appointment if you are a new adult patient at Health Center 10. 305 days is almost a year. And it doesn't only affect Health Center 10, it affects the waits are higher at Health Center 9 in our neighborhood, Councilwoman Bass. At Health Center 6, which is at 3rd and Girard, they're much longer because of the lower need as people from the lower Northeast go to those health centers for care. Healthcare delayed is healthcare denied. I want to personally thank Councilwoman Lozada and her staff who promised that they would introduce this, that she would introduce this legislation if we could show support for a new health center at the Friends Hospital site. In the face of the opposition of a few Northeast residents who opposed the site of this new health center, members of our coalition, including thousands of health center patients, our board members, Philadelphia Unemployment Project, Pennsylvania Immigration and Citizenship Coalition, labor unions, and clergy, thousands have spoken strongly in support of this new site at the Friends Hospital site without delay as soon as is humanly possible, followed up by a new satellite clinic at the Frankfurt Transportation site. Now, I know you have a lot of really important issues to address. I know how hard it is out here, but this one is an easy one. At least right now, I urge you to support this bill, and then please make sure there's no delay in the establishment of these desperately needed services. 92% of our patients state that they would recommend their health center to a loved one. Please learn about this amazing system of care that our health centers provide and the funding that it contributes not only to our people's good health, but to our general fund. Nobody else is coming to save us. Some of you probably don't even remember when we had a public hospital in this city. We were the first city to shut our public hospital, Philadelphia General Hospital. So nobody else is coming to save us. Nobody. I urge you to support and expedite the building of 2 new health centers in Northeast Philadelphia now and give your enduring and robust support to the Philadelphia City Health Centers, not only with this expansion in the Northeast, but all over our city is needed. Healthcare delayed is healthcare denied. Thank you all so much for all your hard work on behalf of us in Philadelphia. Thank you.
And we thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from members of the committee for this panel? No questions? No. All right, seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony. And can we have Madam Clerk please call forward the last panel to testify on this bill, 240426?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Serna y estoy aquí en favor de la ordenanza 240426.
And my name's Julio, I'm going to translate after her.
Okay. Mi testimonio, ¿por qué es importante el centro de salud comunitario en el área del Noreste? Cuando nosotros pensamos en la vida de las personas, es difícil imaginar qué tú puedes hacer para tener una mejor calidad de salud y de vida, especialmente si te enfermas y buscas dónde atenderte. He vivido junto a mi familia desde hace casi 26 años en el noreste de la ciudad y puedo dar testimonio de lo difícil que ha sido la atención a la salud para toda mi familia. Cómo a través de los años nunca pudimos acceder a ser atendidos en el Centro de Salud número 10 de Cadman Avenue, por lo congestionado, donde a pesar de tu madrugar a las 4 a.m., encuentras largas filas para coger un turno. Y si lo logras, te dan una larga cita para un año. Así como le sucedió a mi amiga Cristina, quien tampoco pudo atenderse en este centro de salud. También a mi amiga Joana, que está aquí presente. Ella se cayó un día y se dañó un brazo y buscó y luchó para una cita y tampoco pudo. Hoy vino con un dolor de muelas porque no ha encontrado dónde atenderse. Es una realidad. Todo esto nos ha obligado siempre a desplazarnos hacia otros lugares de la ciudad de Filadelfia para recibir atención y en muchas de las veces a recurrir a remedios caseros y así dejar pasar el tiempo y esto lo he visto en mi hogar, a medida que mi madre envejecía, quien ahora tiene 91 años, se hacía mucho más difícil, pues ella sufre de condiciones de salud. Ahora está en silla de ruedas y para buscar dónde atenderla es muy difícil. Igualmente me sucedió con mi hermana, que sufre de múltiple esclerosis, MS. Ella también usa silla de ruedas. Con mi hermano también, él sufre del corazón. Y de igual forma para mí y mis hijos, de los cuales Miguel Esteban estuvo a punto de morir. Y muchas veces he pensado que si nosotros hubiésemos tenido y hubiésemos contado con una mejor calidad de atención de salud, todo esto no nos habría pasado. El contar con un lugar como estos nuevos centros de salud para atendernos será de gran ayuda, porque los años pasan y es difícil no tener un lugar accesible para tratarse. Por eso estoy aquí presentando mi experiencia de vida, no solo para mi familia únicamente, sino para muchísimas más familias y personas que debido a no poder acceder a un lugar cercano y accesible para cuidar su salud, se han visto obligados a posponer el derecho al cuidado a una salud preventiva. Es muy importante este centro de salud porque así toda mi familia y muchas otras familias podrán tener el acceso a cuidar a su salud. En el Northeast existen viviendo muchísimas comunidades que no tienen esa posibilidad al acceso a la salud. Por favor, escuchen a estas personas a través de la historia de mi familia y mis amigos y las grandes dificultades que todos hemos vivido a través de los años, por no poder contar con la debida atención y cuidados preventivos en servicios de salud. Estos centros de salud ayudarán a que tengamos una Filadelfia mucho más saludable, porque la población viviendo en esta área tendrán donde atenderse. Gracias por su atención a mi testimonio. My name is María Serna. Thank you very much. Thank you, concejal.
Gracias, Maria. Good afternoon, Council. My name is Julio Rodriguez. I'm with the Pennsylvania Immigration Citizenship Coalition. It's great to see so many strong advocates here. And I'm going to be translating for Maria. Dear Madam Chair, Councilmember Lozada, and members of City Council, my name is Maria Serna, and I'm here to testify in favor of Ordinance 240426. When we think about people's lives, it's difficult to imagine what we can do to have a better quality of life and health, especially if you get sick and are looking for somewhere to seek medical attention. I have lived with my family for the last 26 years in the northeast of the city, and I can testify to how difficult healthcare has been for all of us. As over the years, we were never able to access healthcare at Health Center 10 on Cotman Avenue because of how congested it is, where despite getting up at 4 in the morning to get in line, you find extremely long lines to get an appointment. And if you do get an appointment, it's over a year-long wait. As it happened to my friend Christina. She was never able to get treatment there either. I actually brought a friend named Joanna who had extreme pain in her mouth. I told her where I was coming today, and she said, let me go with you. I'd rather go spend half the day and try to get an appointment than wait a year. Give me 1 second. One big thing I want to note is that when people are not able to get care, they often resort to home remedies, which we all know can be dangerous. And I want to also emphasize that this does affect people like my mom, who's 91, and she's in a wheelchair. So it's challenging to move throughout the city, so having access to healthcare nearby is super important. And as her condition becomes more difficult, it's also more and more difficult for her to take her to the doctor. The same thing happened with my sister, who suffers from multiple sclerosis and uses a wheelchair, and with my brother, who also suffers from his heart, and the same way for me and my children, of which Miguel Esteban was about to die. And I often think if we had a better quality of health, this would not have happened to him. Having a place like this new center to serve us will be a great help, because the years go by and it's difficult to have an accessible place to provide medical care to treat you. That is why I'm here. I took today off to be here and presenting my testimony, my life experience, not only for my family, but for more and more people. Due to not being able to access a nearby and accessible place to take care of one's health, we are forced to postpone the right to care and preventative health. The health center is very important because this way my entire family and other families will be able to obtain the access to care of our health. In the Northeast, there are many communities living that do not have that possibility. Please listen to the people. Please listen to us. Through my family's history and the great difficulties we have experienced over the years due to not being able to receive proper attention and preventative care, this health center will help us have a much healthier Philadelphia because the population living in the area will have somewhere to be treated. Thank you so much for your attention to my testimony.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Please state your name and begin.
All right, my name is Marlon Bradshaw. Chairwoman Bass, council members and guests of the Philadelphia City Council Rules Committee. Back in 1981, I was living the dream. I was married, a homeowner, and I was expecting a baby. I gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, but after about 6 months, when our precocious toddler started walking and got a hold of his father's Christmas train set, my husband decided he wasn't really ready to be a parent, and he didn't want to be married anymore. When we finally divorced, I was no longer eligible for his health insurance. Our son would always be covered, but me not so much. At about the same time as my divorce, I was going to college to become a nurse. I thank God every day for my mother and my grandmother, who helped me raise my son, and for Health Center 10. I remember walking into Health Center 10 to make an appointment 42 years ago. That process took over 3 hours. When we were done, I had health insurance and an appointment for adult medicine for 1 month later. That is nothing like the 10 to 12 months it takes today to get a first appointment. About 18 years ago, I was asked to be on the Health Center Advisory Committee. The Health Center Advisory Committee members are a wonderful group of patient representatives and community volunteers, and we meet monthly. I've been a registered nurse now for over 37 years. I'm still a patient of Health Center 10. The patient satisfaction surveys prove that all of the City of Philadelphia health centers provide excellent care. We need this new health center on the campus of Friends Hospital to help those who are waiting too long for an appointment and to make a dent in the healthcare desert that is Northeast Philadelphia. I thank you all. My name is Marlon Bradshaw.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Thank you for being here today. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony, sir.
My name is Kusema Waraka, President of the Health Centers of the City of Philadelphia. Thank you, Ms. Chairman, Councilwoman Burrs, Council Jones, O'Neill, Richardson, and
Squilla.
My apology. Councilwoman Rosada, I would like to thank you so much. Much has been said. I support everything, really. We work with this together with the group. We've been in the community with the Councilwoman Rosada. We've been talking to council members, and members of the community have been very supportive. There's overwhelming support in the community for the 2 new health centers. And the pressure that is now being exerted across all the other health centers because of the overwhelming demand of primary health care, prevention care, and screenings, and all those demands in public health in the community at Health Center number 10 have been overwhelming. It's just about time we actually address this issue. And I'm so thankful for the support we've gotten from the community. And Councilor Bass, you remember, from 2014, we've been talking about these issues of the rise in population in the lower northeast and demand. And so this problem is well known in the city. And in public health, we thank very much our Department of Public Health members who are presented here tonight also. Anyway, I'm not going to talk too much because I'm just repeating myself, and I'm so appreciative, and we thank you so much for paying attention to this issue. Thank you so much.
And thank you for being here today. Any questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, okay, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. Is there anyone else here to testify whose name has not been called? Please proceed to the witness chair. Anyone else here who would like to testify on bill number 240426? Yeah, you can take the first chairs along the rail. Okay. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Hello, City Council member. It's such a pleasure to come in person and see you all today, because in the past we have been communicated by email and invite you to my community event. My name is Pearl Mingju Hun. I'm the founder and president of the Northeast Philadelphia Chinese Association. I'm the one who run the petition to get people signed to support the 2 health center. 6 years ago, I was a staff at the Health Center 10, and I do a Chinese interpretation. When I worked there, I witnessed that so many people need appointment to see the doctor, but they not be able to, and they have to put on a waiting list for 6 months. I left Health Center, and I run my organization, the Chinese Association. And recently, I come back to the Health Center at serve on the advisory committee, and I was surprised that the waiting list go up to almost a year. So the healthcare is really urgent. There's no doubt about it, and so many testimonials today already say enough about it. And I'm here just want to fill you in with how I get to 900 something people signed the petition. Most of them are the people who live nearby the Friend Hospital, because I live in the Longquet neighborhood. I'm a resident there, and my family, we're from Southeast Asia. And in that area nearby, there's a pocket of Chinese immigrants and Southeast Asia, including Vietnamese, Laos, and Cambodia. And many are patients of the health center currently. And so when I talked to them about the health center going to be, could be at the Friend Hospital, everyone was so happy about it, because, you know, it's right in the heart of our community. We live on 2 sides of the Roosevelt Boulevard. So every day, family members just cross the boulevard and visit each other. And we shop at the Northeast Tower and the Asian Strip Mall nearby. We like the Friend Hospital location very much because it's right in the heart of our activity, and the transportation is convenient for both driving and walking. To some people, they think the boulevard is a dangerous area, but for most of the community live there, especially the Asian, that is part of our life. We live there, and we cross the boulevard every day. We shop and we do our business, visit family. So it is not a matter for us. So for some people that are concerned about the safety, I'm grateful for their concern. But to the concentration of Asian community and also maybe other immigrant community, this area is as safe as any other area in the city. So, so please don't worry about it when you make your decision. And I appreciate that you select the Friend Hospital because it's such a nice site. And I heard about all the nice things going to be happening there because of the Friend Hospital. Going to be there. So I heard the transportation department going to put some money to invest in this. And I believe when the Friend Hospital become a health center, the area, it will bring up the economy of the whole area, and it will be more, development, bring more good things to our city. Therefore, and the healthcare is really shortage in the Northeast. So please treat this health center as a high priority project, because every day it counts when it comes down to people's life and well-being. And every day that passes without adequate health care is a risk to our family, our friend, and neighbor. I strongly urge you approving the zoning for these two new health centers without undue delay, because let's move fast. This is one of the best things you can do for our city, because our people really need it. And the health center will bring, happiness to our community. And I appreciate very much, and I hope let's move fast, please. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Thank you. All right, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon.
Good
My
afternoon.
name is Linda Morrison. Chairwoman Bass and the Honorable City Council members, thank you for allowing us to speak. I'm here to put on record my objection to Bill number 240426, to the proposed zoning changes to the area containing the Friends Hospital property. These changes pose a potential threat to the nationally significant These changes pose a potential threat to the nationally significant property through a proposal to construct a building on the contributing grounds and demolish the historicity contributing resource of Lawnside, built in 1859, and is one of the earliest buildings on the property. I am not objecting to a medical facility being built. I'm bringing to light that it took 186 years for the Friends Hospital to attain this designation, and it's the only National Historic Landmark in Northeast Philadelphia. Let's not lose it with the swipe of a pen. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Terry Heiser. I'm Vice President of the Northwood Civic Association. Okay. My testimony is similar to Ms. Morrison's. We in Northwood and a number of other neighborhoods in Northeast Philadelphia, we recognize the need for additional health center capacity, no question about it. But we are strongly opposed to this location at Friends Hospital on 3 points. Number one, it's an extremely dangerous location. It's on a high volume, high speed, 12-lane major highway with a big box shopping center across the street. Police enforcement of traffic rules and regulations is minimal in this city. Public transit routes that would stop there are few. There's only one that runs the length of the boulevard and two that cross it. Patients who would ride public transit or walk to and from the health center would have to cross all 12 lanes. And they would be 42% of the patients, according to the Public Health Department. Some of those patients would be on a wheelchair, a walker, crutches, or a cane. And the city plans to eliminate left turns at the intersection of Langdon Street. Left turns would have to be made a block north or south of that. Additionally, the traffic of the patients and the staff would disturb the tranquil, serene atmosphere that's essential to psychiatric care at Friends Hospital. The National Historic Landmark aspect of this has been mentioned. The Lawnside Building, which is the former gatehouse and superintendent's residence, sits close to Roosevelt Boulevard. It would be between the boulevard and the health center as proposed. However, it's not in the footprint of the health center. Yet, the Historical Commission has approved demolishing it, despite the fact that the Architectural Committee of the Historical Commission recommended not approving because it's not necessary in the public interest. But demolishing Lawnside would conveniently relieve the hospital of a burden of maintaining what is now a dilapidated structure in Lawnside. Furthermore, on that site, which is 99 acres, the grounds of Friends Hospital, there have been Native American encampments. Native Americans had fished and hunted there. Artifacts have been found, arrowheads, tools, and so on. And if such artifacts were found in the excavation for the health center there, that would necessitate an archaeological survey, which might further entail additional preservation and delay the arrival of the health center. We have tried to look at the other 44 sites that were considered. We've requested it from several parties in the city. We have not received them. We would like to see them. We have approached some of the elected officials who signed letters of support for this project. There were 5 of them. 2 of them have withdrawn their support. Another one says he'll go with whatever the community wants. We recommend that this health center be combined with a smaller one that's proposed at Frankfurt and Pratt. That one is for 5,000 patient visits per year, whereas the Friends Hospital Health Center would be for 31,300. We recommend that the two be combined. They're only 1.4 miles apart, and at Frankfurt and Pratt, the traffic is much calmer and public transit is abundantly available at the Frankfurt Transportation Center. If parking were an issue there is an abandoned Walgreens just a block north of that Frankfurt and Pratt site, and we would recommend that the city purchase that. So, again, we are not disputing the need for additional health center capacity. We're just concerned about the location. It would be dangerous at Friends Hospital, dangerous for the patients, and detrimental to operations at the hospital. So that is my testimony. There's just one thing I'd like to add. We learned about this meeting only 3.5 weeks ago, and we request a continuance so that we can consult with our attorney and do research on the background here. And further, we'd like to point out that this hearing is about the zoning change. Yes, the zoning needs to be changed, but we don't want that to lead to the health center going to Friends Hospital. The property is presently zoned for residential single family, and it's a hospital. Sure, it should be changed, but we don't want that to bring this health center there. Again, we have a solution to the problem, Frankfurt and Pratt. So that is our testimony. We thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for your testimony. Please state your name for the record, sir, and proceed with your testimony.
My name is John Buffington. I chair the History Committee of the Historical Society of Frankfurt. Our position is consistent with Northwood Civic. In fact, our colleagues from Northwood Civic just stole most of my best points. Not coincidentally, because we have the same essential position. At Northwood, Friends Hospital is not in Frankfurt. Our mission is to promote and protect the history of Frankfurt and nearby communities. Friends Hospital is not in historic Frankfurt, it's adjacent. It's immediately adjacent to historic Frankfurt. We're very proud of Friends Hospital. As has been said, it's the only national historic landmark in Northeast Philadelphia. There are like 4 steps of importance in historic notice, official notice of history. You can be on the City Register of Historic Places. You can be on the National Register of Historic Places. You can be a National Historic Landmark, or you can be a national park. This is number 3. This is like close to the top. This is like the Gettysburg Cemetery. It's really, really vitally important. Why? Because this was the first place ever, in America at least, to demonstrate that fresh air and not being shackled or locked up was kind of good for people that needed to get over their mental illness. The first place in America. That's why it's a historic national landmark. It shows what the treatment system was in 1836. The innovative treatment as of 1836, which is pretty common now, but it was new when this place became a hospital. And what we have left is the remnant, and it's been changed. It's been changed. Any historic site is going to have been changed over time. What is being proposed here undermines the historic use of the property. It undermines the treatment of the current people there, because they're not going to have quite the access to the grounds and whatnot. As a matter of fact, Scattergood, by the way, Scattergood only owns 20% of this property. It's 80% owned by a for-profit. This is different. This is not being done for the public good. The City Council did not get full information on this soon enough to head it off before stupidity started to move it along. That is that location. I'm not saying there shouldn't be a health center. I'm saying the locating of that property, of that health center, of the newest health center at this location is just dumb. It's dumb. It's not in the interest of the health community. It's not in the interest of the people who are being treated there now. It's not in the interest of the people that are going to be coming there. You heard that. A health center delayed is a health center bungled, not by our new council person, not by the current health director for the city, but by the previous administration, or perhaps more than one. They did not actually do their homework. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your testimony. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
My name is Joseph J. Mankiewicz, Menkevich. I'm an independent independent researcher. Some people would call me an historian. I call myself a researcher. I was formerly the president of the Northwood Civic Association, and I had the nerve to tell one politician that he worked for us, we didn't work for him, and yeah, I got impeached. Just like, yeah, I got impeached. So I know what it feels like. Anyway, I live in a neighborhood. I'm a stakeholder. I own a home in Northwood. I'm not here to talk about a health center. I think this is all smoke and mirrors. The bill here says change the zoning map. Okay, all this other stuff is reason why you're going to change the zoning map. This is a nomination I filed with the Historical Commission. It's not about a health center. It's about the land. Doesn't mention a building. Doesn't mention any of that. It shows arrowheads, Indians. The Friends Hospital knew about the Indian artifacts found on these grounds since 1977. They downplayed it. They didn't want to. Nobody wants to find Indian artifacts. Just like they didn't want it down there at the casinos. The Sugar House didn't want to sit there and dig up everything up and down Route 95. But they did, because they had to. And I'll tell you something else. I don't mind telling politicians no. I don't mind. I mean, we told Rick Mariano no, and we ended up in state Supreme Court, and we won. And when I say we, it wasn't the Civic Association. It was just independent members of the community said, we don't like what the Civic agreed to. They were going to turn around and build a crematorium over at Greenwood Cemetery. And we said no. We said our barbecue chicken will never smell the same again if you've got a crematorium in our neighborhood. And we said no. We took it to Supreme Court, and we won. And I would do it again if I had to, but back to this thing about the Indian artifacts, there's pictures here, if you want to see them. There's pictures of Indian artifacts being found on that ground. What I'm not really opposed to this bill is I'm opposed to moving forward with it until after you actually have yeah, you should put it up there. Yeah, I'm opposed to not having an impact study done because that actually drains, the EPA should do an impact study because that drains the Tookoonee Creek watershed. And that's just one impact study. You should have an environmental impact study just for the watershed. You should have another study done to see if there are, to either include or exclude American Indian artifacts, because if it was your heritage, you would care about it. I didn't bring a tribal lenape here to sit here and testify. But we could have brought. They come to Philadelphia to bust the trees anytime you guys want them. Oh, we're going to put a shovel and bring the Indians. Great photo opportunity. But That's their heritage. That's their artifacts. There were encampments down there on that ground. I traced every deed from William Penn all the way up to the present day, and it's true. That Scattergood Foundation doesn't own that. It's kind of convoluted who even owns that property right now, because it was flipped over 3 or 4 times. Scattergood Friends Hospital owned it. Friends Hospital was a nonprofit. It's actually, this was in Orphans Court. This whole deal, when Friends Hospital got purchased by a for-profit company in Texas, I think it was in 2015, it had to get approved by Orphans Court. And it had to get approved by the Security Exchange Commission. And because this was set up as a trust. The Friends Hospital set this ground up as a trust. So it did get approved by various parties. And the Scattergood Foundation was founded after it was sold to the people in Texas. It's just a name. It's not the same people that always ran it. It's not run by the Friends anymore. It was sold again to a company in Tennessee. The Tennessee company now sold it again to some place out in Glen, I'm trying to think where it is, just outside the city of Philadelphia. It's actually in that, I actually have all the deeds in there, all the deeds and all the purchases. The Friends Hospital right now has been broken up into condominiums. They rent the property back to themselves. They formed, there's so many layers of different companies operating in there. It's not even clear who owns the property right now. And if Scattergood Foundation only owns 20% of it, where's the majority owner? Where's the majority owner saying, hey, we want a zoning change, we want this, we want that? So where is the majority owner of that property right now at his hearing? Because it's not the Scattergood Foundation. I don't know who the Scattergood Foundation is. It's just a straw purchaser, a phony name, it's a front. And all these people with the health care stuff, that's all smoke and mirrors. There's plenty of health care in Frankfurt. They got a place on Frankfurt Avenue at Cellar Street. It takes up five parcels that go from Frankfurt Avenue to Griscom Street. It's a health center. It's not a public health center, but it's open to the public, and it takes people with no health insurance. If you don't have health insurance and you go there, they'll get you health insurance. I'm 74 years old. I raised 8 kids, or I had 9, 8 of them are still alive, 3 of them graduated college. I worked at a blue-collar job at Bud Company until Ronald Reagan shut all the unions down. I never had a problem getting health benefits. I mean, there was a time I was even collecting welfare when I was out of work. They put a lien on my house, and they took all their money back when I sold the house. And poverty is not a disease. It's a desert. You make it from one end of the desert to the other end of the desert, and you'll find an oasis. I own a house now. I mean, I'm out of that poverty thing. Now I'm getting to the end of my life now, because I got to start planning on where my stuff's going to go. But I wouldn't mind suing the city again. I wouldn't mind taking you people to court. Because I kind of think that, and I don't mind telling people like my councilwoman to stop playing with her phone all the time. Because you sit here the whole time in this meeting just playing with it. And I'll just say another thing. The public meetings they said that we had in our neighborhood weren't public meetings at all. They didn't come to the Civic Association. What they did is they dialed up all their friends from Facebook, and they all showed up at a recreation center. That was a pep rally. That wasn't a public meeting. Okay. So one other thing is I don't like Zoom meetings because they steal your voice. They violate your constitutional rights. Okay. So right now, I would really just urge you people to wrap up my testimony, since they talk too damn much, is postpone decision on this until you really find out who owns the place. If they put a health center there, be as it may, they put a casino down there they put a casino in, but do the studies that need to be done. Make sure you do the impact studies of the environment. Make sure you do the studies to see if there are Indian artifacts there. And if you get a health center in there, then you get a health center in there. I mean, you can't control the world.
Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean,
Is there-
if you're going to give that book, I mean, if you want to
Yeah,
keep that
we'll
book,
make sure you
only,
get it
only
back.
if it goes to the mayor. Because the last thing I gave to the mayor, what was it, the last guy? Yeah,
Okay.
he didn't read it.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 240426? Anyone else here to testify? I'm sorry, you already testified, ma'am? Actually, no, I'm sorry. We still have a number of bills here that we have to hear today. But we thank you for your earlier testimony. Is there anyone else who would like to testify on Bill number 240426 that has not already spoken? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, can we have you call forward the panelists for Bill number 240427? And as they are approaching, I'm going to recognize Councilmember Jeffrey Young for comments. Councilmember?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so bill number, what's the number? 240427 involves a change to the zoning code regarding non-conforming uses. Zoning regulates land use and structure placement to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the City of Philadelphia's residents and businesses. For almost 100 years, local government's ability to regulate land use has been constitutionally protected as a natural police power. In the landmark decision, United States Supreme Court decision, Village of Euclid versus Ambler Realty Company in 1926, the court held that as long as they are not arbitrary and unreasonable, zoning ordinances are constitutional under the police power of local governments, as long as they have some relation to the public health, safety, morals, or general welfare. So in effect, changing zoning regulations could be considered a taking of private property. So I fully understand the angst of this bill. However, although governments have broad powers to take private property for a public purpose, individual property owners must be compensated for the property taken. Accordingly, a zoning restriction that requires a landowner to discontinue a previously legal use of their land or remove from the property a non-conforming building or structure without compensation, that is unconstitutional. However, when zoning power is exercised in a reasonable and proper manner, payment of compensation is not warranted. And so what we're trying to do with this bill is not take away property rights. It's not require that all non-conforming uses be eliminated. But what we're trying to do here is to ensure that a community has the benefit of planning for the future. And so non-conforming uses refer to when local governments change zoning laws and allow existing property some form of exemption, from abiding by the new regulations. So the law in Pennsylvania regulating non-conforming uses is well settled. A non-conforming use is a use that predates a prohibitory zoning regulation. It constitutes a vested constitutional property right that may be continued unless the use is a nuisance, abandoned, right, which is the key to this bill, or extinguished by eminent domain. So again, this bill today seeks to provide clarity on when a non-conforming use is deemed abandoned. And I'm going to read the language of the bill. It's really one sentence long. A non-conforming use shall be deemed abandoned whenever such use is discontinued and a new use is established with or without the grant of a zoning permit, and shall not be reinstated. So the burden of proving the existence of a non-conforming use falls upon the property owner. In order to establish a non-conforming use, a property owner must present objective evidence that the subject property was devoted to such use at the time of the prohibitory zoning regulation was enacted. Property owners with a legal non-conforming use have a constitutionally protected right to expand that use
notwithstanding its status as non-conforming. However, this right is not unlimited, but Pennsylvania courts have concluded that while a property owner may increase the intensity of a non-conforming use may not be expanded if it will be inconsistent with the public interest. The owner may also be prevented from returning property to a non-conforming use if that property starts to actually conform, to become a conforming use. So with that said, in determining whether a desired use is a change in use or an additional use or merely just a continuation of an existing non-conforming use, Pennsylvania courts have ruled that a new activity may be permitted continuation of a non-conforming use if it is a similar existing use. So you're going to hear testimony from folks that, we may have tenants in a property, and if this bill goes into effect and we have a non-conforming use, then our tenants, we may not be able to get new tenants at that property. And I understand that. However, the proposed use need not be identical to the existing non-conforming use. Rather, similarity is all that is required. So, for example, the Supreme Court ruled that a day camp was similar to an amusement park, right? So that's how liberal the non-conforming use law is construed here in Pennsylvania. So this fear of losing a legal non-conforming use, in my opinion, is misguided. When is a non-conforming use abandoned by the property owner? So a use is entitled to legal recognition and protection as a non-conforming use. It does not lose such status unless it is abandoned, and that's what we're talking about in this legislation. What is abandoned? The courts ruled that non-conforming use continues until abandonment, which requires 1, an intent to abandon, and 2, actual abandonment. So to me, right, if you establish a new use, then it's clear that you have intent to abandon and actual abandonment. And so that's what this bill intends to do, right? But there are protections, right? So regarding intent, so if you are, you abandon because of financial inability, you're protected, your non-conforming use is protected, or if you fail to register or get a permit for your non-conforming use, that's not considered to be abandonment at all. So this bill does not eliminate non-conforming uses. I'm going to read the bill again. A non-conforming use shall be deemed abandoned whenever such use is discontinued and a new use is established with or without the grant of a zoning permit and shall not be reinstated. All right. And so, just to give an example, for example, we have a former nursing home at 2100 Girard Avenue in Philadelphia. That nursing home closed in 2022, and after 2022, that nursing home was used as a homeless shelter. Now, a homeless shelter and a nursing home are 2 totally separate uses. So again, I feel that in that event where you abandon your nursing home use and you use it as a shelter use, then under this legislation, you will be prohibited from then trying to come back and say, you know what, we're going to still use it as some kind of medical facility in the future. Once you change that use from its original use, you are not able to go back to then say, you know, we changed our mind, we want to go back to this use that is considered to be a nuisance in the community. So that is all this bill is trying to do, is to protect communities and prevent nuisances from happening. So thank you, Madam Chair.
We thank you for the explanation. We just don't want to lose our quorum. But thank you very much for a very thorough explanation. You know your stuff. So we appreciate that. Calling forward, even Paula gave you the thumbs up, right? So can we get you to state your name for the record and please proceed with your testimony, Paula.
I am Paula Brumbelow Burns, Director of Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill number 240427, introduced into City Council on May 9th, 2024 by Councilmember Young. Bill number 240427 amends the Philadelphia Zoning Code by amending Section 14-305 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Nonconformities by providing further provisions on changes from nonconforming uses. The bill proposes an additional standard for how nonconforming use standards are applied and when permits should be discontinued, which will be a major citywide change in how nonconformities are treated. The new criteria for determining when a nonconforming use is abandoned will potentially move legally nonconforming uses out of compliance, specifically in buildings with many tenant spaces. The staff of the Planning Commission will be recommending an additional 45-day review to the Planning Commission at their upcoming meeting. In reviewing the bill within the administration, several significant questions were raised. We would like to step back and take a more holistic review of our current nonconforming section and determine if a full revision to the entire section of the code and not just one small section is warranted. The Philadelphia City Planning Commission will consider Bill number 240427 at its public meeting on June 6, 2024. I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions from the panel? Any questions, Councilman Young?
Does the Planning Commission have, does the Planning Commission have a recommendation on the bill?
At this point, we have not. When we met with the law department and license and inspections to see how the bill would be interpreted, how L&I would be reading the bill, there were just several questions, so we did not have enough time to kind of work around trying to figure out the best solutions.
Thank you.
So we don't actually have one. We're just recommending the 45 days for additional review time.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much for your testimony. Can we have the Madam Clerk please call our next witness to testify?
Rachel Pritzker, Building Industry Association Board Member.
Thank you. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
So, good afternoon. My name is Rachel Pritzker. I am here as the owner and CEO of Pritzker Law Group, which is the city's only certified women-owned law firm focused in the areas of real estate, business, and government relations. I'm also the youngest female board member of the Building Industry Association, which is who I'm here today representing. I'm providing testimony on Bill number 240427, amending the zoning code related to nonconforming uses. I want to first say that I never look forward to testifying in opposition of legislation. I consider myself a colleague to many on City Council and City Council members and staffers, given my former job for this legislative body as a City Council staffer, specifically as Legislative Counsel. With that said, the bill as currently written is ambiguous and can have dangerous consequences that goes against our city's goal of keeping wealth in neighborhoods, transparency, and providing affordable housing. I want to start by making it clear that a legal non-conforming use or a property that is grandfathered in means that at some point prior to a remapping, legislative change, code amendment, or code rewriting, as was undertaken in 2011-2012, the property obtained a valid use permit and certificate of occupancy. We are not talking about illegal uses at all. This legislation, in its current form, seeks to remove the process and protections in place for existing nonconforming uses and instead provides a very unclear process for how existing nonconforming uses that might be legal but maybe not appreciated in this instance can get wiped out under a property owner. While we are aware of the sponsor's intent for this bill, there are arguably, on the low end, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of properties in the city of Philadelphia that have and had obtained legal use permits and COs to use and operate their property in a certain way. For example, I worked on a project recently located in the 32nd Democratic Ward and one in Tioga, which were owned by the grandchildren of a long-term Philadelphia resident and property owner. The grandmother, in one instance, had owned the triplex for 40 years until she passed it to her granddaughter. Since owning the property for 40 years, the property had never not been a legal triplex and had provided retirement income for this family and generational wealth, owning the real estate outright. The property had since been remapped from a zoning classification in the 1960s that had allowed for a triplex by right to RSA 5. However, given the city's rules for nonconforming uses before this recent amendment, we were able to help this family get an updated rental license and keep the use as a triplex when it changed hands to the granddaughter. Given the current process, well known to L&I and the city, we were able to show proof that it was a legal nonconforming use, and this family was able to retain their property, hopefully for generations to come. I could give you hundreds of these examples. Had this legislation been in effect, or the city process arbitrarily and ambiguously changed, this family might have had to go through the variance process, which can cost $3,000 to $5,000 in city-required fees and posting requirements alone, not even considering legal fees. And in most cases, they would have either had no choice but to operate it illegally or sold the property, as they would not have been able to fight the battle with L&I or weather the ZBA process. This conversation happens all the time. This is also the case for small business owners across the city who have maintained the same existing non-conforming uses for decades. Without clear and thoughtful amendments to this bill, this is what is at risk all over the city. This also does not help keep affordable units in neighborhoods, as the family's other option would have been, if they could have afforded to, demolish the entire interior of the building and made it one single-family home under the RSA 5 zoning, or sell it to someone to do the same thing, the cost of which would have far exceeded what would be reasonable and marketable in any neighborhood outside of Center City, Society Hill, Washington Square, Northern Liberties, or the like. And the family would have lost generational wealth, and the neighborhood would have lost affordable units. What we are doing with this bill is creating a citywide problem that does not solve the one issue it was based on, and in fact, could create even more loss. It is those in our city who cannot afford lawyers, like myself, that we hurt. And it is against my own bottom line to stand in opposition to this bill. But it's the right thing to do. I want to end by saying we look forward to working with the bill's sponsor on various issues that he is championing and that we can see shared common ground on. Thank you for your time, and I'm available for any questions, Chairwoman and members of the Rules Committee.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions from the committee? I don't see any. Any questions?
Yes, one
Councilman
question.
Young?
Good afternoon, Richard. In your testimony, you mentioned that you had clients that had a triplex and you helped them through that process. Now, did they ever use that property as something other than a triplex?
So they didn't use it as something other than a triplex. However, there were periods of time that it wasn't operating with tenants in it and things, and given the abandonment, which, as you know from the courts, has long-standing, it doesn't have to be just vacant, they could be trying to fill it, there's a lot of nuances to it, and we had to spend hours working through this with L&I, hours.
And I get it, and I get that point regarding abandonment, but this bill says a new use is established. That's the only difference here. So if they never established a new use, then they would not fall under this bill, right? It only is considered if they, for example, were to say, try to use it as a store or something like that. As long as you maintain your same grandfather use, under this bill, you're fine. It's just that when you establish a new use, right, even if it's a conforming or another non-conforming use, you then lose the ability to say you want to go back to that previous use once you establish a new use. That's all this bill does, and it clarifies that.
Where do you have it say things like with the zoning permit or not with the zoning permit? It's a lot of gray area. And what you want to have people do who are not really well-versed in this is make sure it's really clear, not only for the people that are operating in the city, the people who are buying real estate in the city, the people that own real estate in the city, and then the people that have to enforce all this, like the Department of Licenses and Inspections.
I think that our L&I has the technical capability of enforcing this, and I do think that when it comes to the issue with or without the grant of a zoning permit, that goes to show that intent as well. Right, so if you're using a property and you don't have a zoning permit for it, you're not using it in a legal manner anyway. And so I think what this bill does is just try to clarify and to bring those properties on record to be a legal, whether they're a legal non-conforming use or legally permitted use.
I'm going to, as respect for the board or the committee wanting a quorum, I will leave my rebuttal to where it is. I think the reality here is that this bill could be cleaned up a lot cleaner, just a lot more transparent and easier for everybody to follow. And the reason that the BIA is opposing the bill is because we want to make sure that other council members are aware when we make big, broad changes to the zoning code that affect a lot of different properties and a lot of different people, that we're really thoughtful how we do it and it's really clear and concise. And that's all we're asking for. We appreciate the intent in the bill. I've offered off the record a thousand times to help work on the bill, and just want to make sure that when we're dealing with clients who are, and people in our industry who are not always well-versed, don't always have lawyers, don't always have architects, and they have been in neighborhoods for many years and they don't understand the nuances, that it's clear to all of them. So they don't wake up one day and then they have to figure out, how am I paying a lawyer, how am I doing this, how am I doing that? And that's really what I'm here to support, because although I have this big fancy title, I started my career representing neighborhood people because nobody was hiring me for bid projects in Center City. And so I have seen a lot of the issues that come from this, and I have done probably more zoning board cases than most people in the city. So I could tell you firsthand that we want to be really careful before we push people through what is a very expensive and time-consuming process. And that's all we're looking to achieve here, and we're happy to work collectively on that.
And just a point of information, they do, if a person were to disagree with this particular provision, they wouldn't have to go to the zoning board to seek a variance, right? If they disagree, you would appeal to L&I and basically say that L&I made the wrong decision by saying my property is does not fall under this grandfathered provision if it's not a similar. Again, it's only for new uses. So if I have a use and L&I is saying, well, nope, it doesn't fall under there, and your argument is that, yes, it does, it's still a similar use, then you make an appeal against L&I. You don't seek a variance. That's a much different process.
So I think that, this is something that, in this particular case, I think that Councilman Young is probably more than willing that if we see, when we legislate something, that if we see that it is, that your concerns do come to the forefront in a significant way, then that's something that we can certainly revisit, I believe. So I think, Councilman Young, would you say that you would be certainly open to making amendments, adjustments, after passage to this bill so that we can make sure that it's not an undue burden on the taxpayer, the property owners?
Madam Chair, one more comment, if I may. Just given the fact that the Planning Commission is asking for 45 days, this bill won't pass before the end of the session in reality anyway, so we still have the summer to work on things. I just would like to make sure that if I ask this committee to humbly, pass this with a favorable recommendation so we can move forward with the process.
Okay, so there is time. So there is a period over the summer months where we can get together. I'd be happy to convene a meeting so that we can walk through, what your concerns are and try to figure out something. So let's keep that on the table over the summer months. We work all summer long. People say City Council doesn't work. We work all summer long, so we'll be here and would love to work with you on this to get it done. Okay. All right, thank you so much. Is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 240-427, 240-427? Anyone else? No, seeing no one. Madam Clerk, please call the next witness on Bill number 240-466.
Paula Brumbelow Burns, Director of Legislation, Philadelphia City Planning Commission.
Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good afternoon to the members of the Rules Committee. I am Paula Brumbelow Burns, Director of the Legislation for the Philadelphia City Planning Commission. I am here to testify on Bill number 240-466, introduced into City Council on May 16, 2024, by Councilmember Bass for Council President Johnson. Bill number 240-466 amends the Philadelphia Zoning Code by amending Section 14-303-14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Public Hearings of the Zoning Board of Adjustment to change the number of board members required for a quorum or an action taken at the Zoning Board of Adjustment hearing. This bill addresses the question of what constitutes a quorum in light of the recent charter change that increased the Zoning Board of Adjustment to 7 members. The bill as introduced increases the static number of members necessary for making a quorum and taking action from 3 to 4 members. The amendment before you today will revise the quorum requirement from the static number of members to a majority of the members of the Zoning Board constituting a quorum. The staff of the Planning Commission supports the amendment to adjust the language to a majority of members. I will be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thank you for your testimony. Any questions from committee? I don't see any. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here to testify on Bill number 240-466? No. Okay. Seeing none, it's been a marathon. Seeing none, and being that there are no further witnesses, let's see, where are we? This concludes the public hearing. No. No? Oh, yeah. Is there anyone here for public comment? No. Okay, I didn't think so. Yeah. Okay, all right. So seeing none, this concludes the public hearing. We'll now go into a public meeting shortly to consider the action to be taken on the bills before the committee today. We want to thank you for your patience and now go into our public meeting. The chair recognizes Councilman Squilla for a motion on bill number 240426.
A quorum is present, and thank you, Madam Chair. I move the bill number 240426 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move the rules of council be submitted, permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Thank you. The chair knows for the record that Councilmember Gauthier seconds the motion. It's been moved and properly seconded that bill number 240426 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All of those in favor of this motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. Chair,
Madam Chair, I'd like to be recorded as voting aye on the bill that I just missed. Thank you.
Yes. And Chair recognizes for the record that Councilwoman Kathy Gilmore Richardson voted aye on bill number 240426 as well. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion to the amendment on bill number 240058.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I offer an amendment to bill number 240058. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to bill number 240058 be approved.
Second. It's been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to bill number 240058 be approved. All of those in favor of this motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, the ayes have it and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on bill number 240058 as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that bill number 240058 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended and submit the first reading of this bill to the next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Kathy Gilmore Richardson seconds the motion. It's been moved and properly seconded that bill number 240058 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All of those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on the amendment to bill number 240157.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I offer an amendment to bill number 240157. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to bill number 240157 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to bill number 240157 be approved. All of those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. And the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla for a motion on bill number 240157 as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the bill number 240157 that as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended and submit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Kathy Gilmore Richardson seconds the motion, and it's been moved and properly seconded that bill number 240157 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All of those in favor of this motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, the ayes have it, and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on bill number 240242.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the bill number 240242 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended and submit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To correct the motion, I move that bill number 240242 be reported from this committee
With a favorable.
with a favorable recommendation.
Second.
The chair knows for the record that Councilmember Kathy Gilmore Richardson seconds the motion. It's been moved and properly seconded that bill number 240242 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the ayes have it and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on the amendment to Bill Number 240332.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm offer an amendment to Bill Number 240332. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee, and I move that the amendment to Bill Number 240332 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that an amendment to Bill Number 240332 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on Bill Number 240332 as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the Bill Number 240332 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Kathy Gilmore Richardson seconds the motion. It's been moved and properly seconded that Bill Number 240332 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All of those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on Bill Number 240368.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the Bill Number 240368 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
Chair recognizes, chair notes for the record that Councilmember Kathy Gilmore Richardson seconds the motion. Been talking for 3 hours straight, sorry. It's been moved and properly seconded that Bill Number 240368 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All of those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. The chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on Bill Number 240385.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the Bill Number 240385 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Gilmore Richardson seconds the motion. It's been moved and properly seconded that Bill Number 240385 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on the amendment to Bill Number 240415.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I offer an amendment to Bill Number 240415. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee, and I move that the amendment to Bill Number 240415 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill Number 240415 be approved. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on Bill Number 240415 as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the Bill Number 240415 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended as to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Gilmore Richardson seconds the motion. It's been moved and properly seconded that Bill Number 240415 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All of those in favor of this motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on the amendment to Bill Number 240421.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I offer an amendment to Bill Number 240421. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee, and I move that the amendment to Bill Number 240421 be approved.
Second.
It has been moved and probably seconded that the amendment to Bill Number 240421 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. And I want to recognize Councilmember Squilla for a motion on Bill Number 240421 as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Bill Number 240421 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended and submit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Kathy Gilmore Richardson seconds the motion. It's been moved and properly seconded that Bill Number 240421 as amended be reported from the committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on Bill Number 240427.
Thank you. Easy for you to say, but thank you, Madam Chair. I move the Bill Number 240427 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended and submit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Kathy Gilmore Richardson seconds the motion. It's been moved and properly seconded that Bill Number 240427 be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All those in favor of this motion will signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on, we're going to be holding Bill Number 240432. So there will be no motion on Bill Number 240432. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on the amendment to Bill Number 240466.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I offer an amendment to Bill Number 240466. A copy of the amendment has been circulated to all members of the committee. I move that the amendment to Bill Number 240466 be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded that the amendment to Bill Number 240466 be approved. All those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla for a motion on Bill Number 240466 as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that Bill Number 240466 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended and submit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council.
Second.
The chair notes for the record that Councilmember Kathy Gilmore Richardson seconds the motion. It's been moved and properly seconded that Bill Number 240466 as amended be reported from this committee with a favorable recommendation, and further move that the rules of council be suspended to permit the first reading of this bill at the next session of council. All of those in favor of this motion will signify by saying aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? The ayes have it, and the motion carries. And if there is no additional remarks, this concludes the business of the... Yeah, we did in the beginning. 058? Yeah, in the beginning. We did it first.
6-8.
I circled them out. Okay, and if there are no additional remarks, this concludes the business of the Committee on Rules for today. Thank you all very much for your attendance.